Chapter 623. 623 Chaotic Astral Ocean. A day later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were standing side by side on Emerald Cloud Peak outside Fiery Wind City. Lu Ming, what are your plans after this? Xian Yanqing asked. Leave the Qianxian region and go to the vaster world to train and gain experience. Do you want to come with me? Lu Ming's gaze was deep and seemed to be able to penetrate through space and look into the distance. His eyes were filled with anticipation. After all, the Qianxian region was too small. The outside world was more exciting. On the list of top 1,000 talents of the Eastern Barren Territory, there was only one saint planet in the Qianxian region, and it was ranked at the bottom. What about the other heaven's favorites? How powerful was he? How graceful was she? Lu Ming wanted to see how he could become stronger by clashing with those peerless talents. Hearing Lu Ming's words, the corners of Xian Yanqing's lips curled up slightly. He smiled and said, "Sure, of course I'm going with you. I haven't even fulfilled the promise I made to myself." Promise? What promise? Lu Ming asked curiously. Of course I'm going to defeat you and trample you under my feet. You can't run away. Xian Yanqing chuckled. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. This girl still remembered this. How long had it been? It seems that women are really narrow-minded. They hold grudges too much. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. However, he still felt a sense of urgency. Xian Yanqing's improvement was too shocking. If he had been a little slower, he would have been surpassed by Xian Yanqing. Moreover, during the time that Xian Yanqing disappeared, the martial arts technique that he cultivated had changed again. It seemed to be even more amazing. Where did she go? Should she barge into a secret place or return to her own home? If she's from her own family, then her family background must be very shocking. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and pondered. However, Xian Yanqing obviously didn't want to talk about her family background, so he didn't ask. What are you looking at? Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at him, then his eyes flashed as if he remembered something. Lu Ming, did you find the secret of the martial emperor's treasure that your father told you about? You mean this? A jade sword the length of a finger appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up. A jade sword the length of a finger appeared in his hand. It was almost identical to the one in Lu Ming's hand. Buzz. Buzz. The two of them poured their Jin Yuan into the jade swords at the same time. The jade swords glowed, and a map appeared on each of the jade swords. On the map, there was a route that led to a destination. The two of them had the same destination. It seems like there are quite a lot of these jade swords. Lu Ming said. As far as I know, this jade sword should be the key to the martial emperor's treasure. There should be 9 of them, and they are scattered all over the Eastern Barren Territory. Only when all 9 of them are gathered can we find the key to the martial emperor's treasure, Xian Yanqing said. 9? Then we only have 2. It seems that we have no chance of getting the martial emperor's treasure. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. No, 9. 8 of them have already been born. Xian Yanqing said. 8 swords? How did you know? Lu Ming asked curiously. Lu Ming, don't you study this jade sword? Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming, speechless. Ahem, I didn't really study it. Lu Ming coughed awkwardly. He indeed hadn't studied it much. Before, he had been focused on improving his cultivation with the goal of defeating the sacred constellation. After that, he had been focused on studying the Tao of Inscription and hadn't really studied the jade sword. Xian Yanqing glanced at Lu Ming speechlessly. Look, on the hilt of this jade sword, aren't there a few faint inscriptions? Lu Ming looked at it seriously and he really saw some faint inscriptions. There are 9 inscriptions on it, which represent 9 keys. Now, 8 of them are shining, which means that 8 keys have already been born and are in the hands of different people. And this map points to the end point. It's in the chaotic astral ocean. I reckon that the other people who have obtained the key will definitely rush to the chaotic astral ocean. Go directly to the chaotic astral ocean? Xian Yanqing said. Chaotic astral ocean? Lu Ming's gaze flickered. The chaotic astral ocean is extremely famous in the Eastern Barren Territory. It was an inland sea, vast and boundless, more than 10 times larger than the Qianxian region. The chaotic astral ocean is filled with islands scattered like stars. Countless martial arts experts live in these waters. As its name suggested, Riot referred to the chaotic inland sea where countless evil people gathered. This was because this place was not the territory of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, or the Sky Demon Valley. Even the Overlord forces would find it hard to conquer this place. Therefore, all the experts who have offended these Overlord forces hide in the chaotic astral ocean. No one will be able to find them. In addition, there are countless big and small powers in the chaotic astral ocean, making this area extremely chaotic and full of killing. It's common for people to draw their blades and kill people if they don't agree with each other. You're not afraid, are you? Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming with a half-smile. The chaotic astral ocean is just what I want. Lu Ming smiled. Lu Ming had the bloodline of the 9 dragons. This place was most suitable for him. All right, when do you plan to set off? We'll set off in 2 days. He had been back for a few months. It was time to leave. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing bade farewell to Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. Although the couple was a little reluctant to part, they were happy to have Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming go out and explore. Only by adventuring together could they quickly increase their relationship, right? Buzz. Buzz. 2 rainbow lights streaked across the sky and disappeared into the horizon. Their speed was unbelievably fast, and they arrived at Tianqian City in a few days. Given Lu Ming's current reputation, it was not an easy task to take the inter-province transportation array. 2 days later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stepped into the inter-province transportation portal. The inter-province transportation formation formed a huge whirlpool. With a flash of light, the 2 of them disappeared from the altar. The Cloud Peak area is a large area close to the chaotic astral ocean, and its territory is extremely vast. However, in this region, the power of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace did not cover the sky with one hand. Several powerful forces had established their own forces here, such as the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, and the Heavenly Demon Valley. They had also set up inter-province transportation formations. If you want to go to the chaotic astral ocean, you can only teleport here first and then fly there. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had one more thing to do before they reached the chaotic astral ocean. To be precise, Xian Yanqing wanted to seize a treasure from a force in the Yunfeng region. The inter-province transportation formation in the Detian Divine Palace of the Yunfeng region flashed and 2 figures appeared. They were Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Whoa, this fee is too expensive. Lu Ming's heart ached as he shouted. The distance between the Tianqian region and the Yunfeng region was 23 large regions. The teleportation fee was 1.5 million supreme spiritual crystals per person. The 2 of them had a total of 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. In order to show that Lu Ming was a man, he had to pay out of his own pocket. In the end, he felt a great heartache. Now, he was only left with more than 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. It looks like I'll have to find a way to get some supreme-grade spirit crystals. Otherwise, I won't even have enough to use, let alone break through to Peak-tier King. Lu Ming thought to himself. Chapter 624. 624 Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. The 2 of them left the territory of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and turned into 2 rays of light, heading west. The Cloud Sea Elixir Academy was extremely famous in the Yunfeng region. It was an extremely famous force other than the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and a few other overlord forces. This force mainly focused on alchemy. They were very famous for their alchemy skills, and the pills they made were also sought after by many. Most importantly, the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution had a good reputation. Every month, the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy would open its doors. Warriors who liked alchemy could enter the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy and study there for 3 months. In these 3 months, the alchemy masters of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy would impart their experience and alchemy skills. Everything was free. It was because of this that the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution was able to survive under the influence of the overlords. It was also able to live a comfortable life and become stronger. Their goal was to go to the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy and take one of their treasures, the heavenly demon fruit. Cough, cough. It doesn't seem very good for us to snatch other people's treasures for no reason. On the way, Lu Ming coughed a few times. Lu Ming was a man of principle. Unless it was an enemy, he would not snatch someone else's treasure for no reason. Furthermore, this power had a good reputation. I'm doing this for the people. Do you really think the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution is as good as the rumors say? That's just a trick the people of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy use to deceive the world. I've already investigated clearly. The things that the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy has done in the dark can be said to be infuriating to both man and God. Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. What do you mean? Lu Ming said. Follow me, I'll take you to see. Xian Yanqing said. The two of them flew and a few days passed in a flash. They were already within the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy's sphere of influence. The two of them landed on a mountain range and walked forward. There was a small town in front of them. Most of the residents were ordinary people, but there were also a few low-level martial artists. The two of them strolled around the town. How is it? Did you see anything? Xian Yanqing asked. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the room and his brows furrowed even more. The people in this town are very strange. Most of them don't have much vitality, especially the children. Lu Ming said. That's right. Do you know why? Xian Yanqing asked. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. During this period of time, he had made great progress in the Tao of inscription. Naturally, his vision was different. He thought of a possibility. Before Lu Ming could say anything, Xian Yanqing had already started explaining. That's because the people from the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution often come here and secretly extract the innate blood qi of the babies. When the babies are born, the acquired qi is not strong, so the innate blood qi is the most useful. They use the innate blood qi to make pills. As a result, the babies who have their innate blood qi extracted will not live past 30 years old when they grow up. It's enough for the people of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy to live to 30 years old. They've already married and had children. Their children will end up the same way. Perhaps in the eyes of the people of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, these ordinary people are just some animals they raise or some human-shaped spiritual herb. Beast. A human-shaped spirit herb? Lu Ming's heart trembled. A cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. If that was the case, the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution was a group of greedy demons and scumbags. It's not just this town. All the remote towns and villages within 1,000,000 miles of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy are in a similar situation. Most of these villagers are ordinary people. The strongest are only warriors. They haven't traveled too far in their lives. They think that people will die at about 30 years old. Xian Yanqing sneered. Lu Ming's expression was extremely gloomy. These people could have lived to 80 or 90 years old, but because their carnate blood qi had been extracted when they were babies, their lifespans had been greatly reduced. They thought that everyone could only live to 30 years old. How sad was this? The Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy does far more than this in the dark. They use this infant's blood and qi to concoct pills and then sell them at a high price to some martial artists in the chaotic astral ocean who practice evil techniques, making a huge profit. Xian Yanqing explained. He seemed to have investigated the Cloud Sea Elixir dispensary very thoroughly. Let's go. I'd like to meet this Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes had disappeared. However, his tone was very cold. The Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy was located on a magnificent mountain range. It was as beautiful as a fairyland, with a magnificent atmosphere and dense spiritual qi. The Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution was actually a family called the Yun family. Because they often opened their doors and taught alchemy to others, they were later called the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. It was said that the head of the Yun family was a Sea of Soul Realm expert. Of course, Lu Ming and the rest could not just charge in like this. They planned to sneak in and check out the situation first. In the past few days, the Cloud Sea City in front of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy's gate had become lively. This was because the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy opened its doors every month to impart the art of alchemy. Warriors from all over the Yunfeng region who were interested in alchemy had gathered here. There were even people from other regions. The two of them came at the right time. Tomorrow was the opening day of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, so the two of them started to stroll around the Cloud Sea city. Along the way, it attracted the attention of many passers-by. It was mainly due to Xian Yanqing's beauty. Such a beautiful woman was rare in the world. "Young lady, are you also going to the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy to learn alchemy?" A slender and handsome young man walked over and asked with a smile. His eyes were fixed on Xian Yanqing, revealing a trace of passion. Xian Yanqing glanced at him coldly and did not answer. "Miss, I am Jiyu Huashu, the young master of the Jiyu family. This must be your first time in Cloud Sea City, right? If you don't mind, I'm willing to show you around Cloud Sea City." The young man continued, revealing his family background as he stared at Xian Yanqing without blinking. As for Lu Ming, he had completely ignored him. "Get lost." Xian Yanqing frowned and coldly spat out a word. Jiyu Huashu's face darkened. Xian Yanqing actually told him to get lost. There had never been a woman who dared to speak to him like this. With a wave of his sleeve, Jiyu Huashu strode away. Before he left, Jiyu Huashu shot Lu Ming a murderous look. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and was completely speechless. He didn't even say a word and was directly implicated. However, he knew Xian Yanqing well. When the young man came up to greet him, he already knew that this would be the result. The two of them continued to walk around for a while. They found a restaurant to have a meal and then found an inn to rest. The next day, it was time for the opening of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing left the Cloud Sea City and headed for the institution. It was easy to enter the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. You just had to fill in some basic information. Lu Ming discovered that there were about a few hundred people who had entered the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution to study. Chapter 625. 625 Yun Haitang. Everyone, you will be studying alchemy in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy for 3 months. You should all have the basics of alchemy. At that time, there will be an alchemy teacher in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy who will teach you. Of course, you can also exchange ideas with the teacher. A skinny middle-aged man appeared in front of the crowd and introduced them loudly. "It's still early, so I'll show you the front yard of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. There are some finished pills there, so you can learn from each other," the middle-aged man said. Then, he led everyone to the back. Everyone followed closely behind. Lu Ming looked around and realized that there were hundreds of them. There were men, women, old and young. It was very diverse and they came from all over the world. The crowd followed the middle-aged man and walked around the front yard. The front yard was very large and was formed by several huge peaks. There were palaces and pavilions everywhere, and a faint medicinal fragrance could be smelled. In some places, there were even medicine fields with all kinds of spiritual herbs growing on them. These herb fields were all guarded by specialized people. These people were either skilled in the water or wood concepts. They were the most suitable people to cultivate spirit herbs. "Lu Ming, there should be an assessment later to test your alchemy skills. Are you sure you can do it?" Xian Yanqing asked in a low voice. "I should. It's fine, right?" Lu Ming said. In the Tao of inscription, there were different preferences, and there were also a few major branches, such as those that were inclined to refining weapons, alchemy, or inscriptions and formations. However, they all had one thing in common, which was that one needed to use mental fire and inscriptions. During this period of time, Lu Ming's inscription had no problems at all. The number of inscriptions from level 1 to level 3 that he had mastered was enough to make those old monsters who had studied inscriptions for hundreds or thousands of years feel ashamed. However, alchemy not only required inscriptions, but also the identification of spiritual herbs and the prescription. In the past 2 months, Lu Ming had learned more than 10 of the most common pill refining methods from Dandan. He had refined them when he had the time and his skills were quite good. As long as it was not too difficult to refine the pills, Lu Ming believed that it would be okay. Really? Xian Yanqing was skeptical. In her impression, Lu Ming was a pure martial artist and did not cultivate the inscription Tao to assist him. Have you ignited your spirit fire? Xian Yanqing asked. It was ignited a few months ago. Lu Ming answered honestly. How many months has it been? Xian Yanqing pouted. However, the good thing was that even if he failed later on, he would not be chased out. He could still stay and study, but the treatment would be different. The group crossed a small bridge over a flowing river, walked past the pavilions, and followed the middle-aged man to a large hall. The moment everyone arrived at the main hall, they could smell the medicinal fragrance. In the hall, there were she levers. On the she levers, there were some small jade boxes with pills on them. These pills were refined by the disciples of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. You can take a look and compare it with your own alchemy skills, the middle-aged man said. Everyone began to look around in the hall. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were also watching. The medicinal pills here ranged from level 1 to level 4. Each pill was full of color, round, and had a medicinal fragrance that made one feel comfortable all over. On the surface of many of the pills, there were fine inscriptions engraved on them, making them look very beautiful. Golden Crow Pill, Essence Enhancing Pill, Wood Returning Pill. Lu Ming saw at least dozens of different types of pills. These pills are full and round, and their purity is very high. It's a pity that the inscriptions are still a little lacking, causing the fusion of the spiritual herbs to not reach a perfect stage. The medicinal effects are also a little lacking. Lu Ming picked up a vitality pill and looked at it. He muttered as he looked at it. This is still lacking. Is that true? At the side, Xian Yanqing was speechless. Lu Ming had only been in contact with the Tao of Inscription for a few months. Could he really tell the quality of these pills? Page, you're really full of yourself. Most of these pills were made by the elite disciples of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Each one is full and the inscriptions are very profound. Each one of these pills is of high quality. Even if I were to make them, I would only be a little better than this. What do you know? A sarcastic voice was heard. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young man in a blue robe sneering at him. This blue-robed young man was Jiyu Huashu, the one who tried to hit on Xian Yanqing but was rejected. Then, Jiyu Huashu turned to Xian Yanqing and said, "Miss, your friend is really nothing much. He only knows how to talk big and has no real talent. Miss, I advise you to stay away from him as soon as possible." Xian Yanqing glanced at Jiyu Huashu and said, "What does it matter to you who I'm with? Mph, you really don't know what a good person's heart is like. A fresh flower stuck in cow dung." Jiyu Huashu snorted coldly and walked away. Lu Ming was a little speechless. This brother was really sick. Everyone watched in the hall for a while. After about half an hour, the middle-aged man said, "All right, it's almost time. You guys can come with me." The group followed the middle-aged man to a square. "Look, Miss Yun Haitang is here." At this moment, someone pointed at the sky and shouted. Lu Ming looked up at the sky and saw 3 figures approaching. In the middle, there was a young woman. This woman looked to be in her 20s and was extremely beautiful. She wore a tight red chiffon dress that outlined her impressive figure. This was a stunning beauty. Most men would be moved by her. 2 elders stood beside the woman. They exuded a powerful aura. A late-stage king tier. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He could tell that the 2 elders were both at the level of a king's tier. However, the young woman was obviously the leader of the 3. The 3 of them landed on the square, and the crowd was in an uproar. Most of the men, regardless of their age, were staring at Yun Haitang with burning eyes. "I didn't expect that Miss Yun Haitang would receive us in person this time. Is she going to exchange alchemy knowledge with us this time? That's great." It is said that Miss Yun Haitang is not only the most beautiful woman in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, but also the most skilled alchemist among the younger generation. Her alchemy skills are already extremely profound, surpassing many of the older generation. This time, I must have a good experience to learn from her. Hey, I think you're just pretending to ask for advice. You're really trying to get close to Miss Yun Haitang, aren't you? You're already so old, but you still don't have any self-respect. So what if I'm older? You can still have spring when you're older. The scene was noisy. These stinky men. At the scene, Some of the women looked at the men with disdain. How is it? Isn't she beautiful? Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming and asked. It's very beautiful. Lu Ming smiled. Me. Xian Yanqing's lips began to curl up. However, compared to you, I'm still far from it. Lu Ming continued. Chapter 626. 626 Pill Refining Assessment. Xian Yanqing's face turned red as a faint smile appeared on his face. However, if she's really in charge of leading our group, we can start with her. Xian Yanqing continued. Oh, what do you mean? Lu Ming was a little curious. The two of them were speaking via voice transmission, so no one else could hear them. I've asked around. Some of the important treasures of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy are hidden in an underground cave in the back mountain. However, the underground cave is full of inscription arrays. Only the inscription tokens refined by the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy can enter. There are only 10 such tokens in the entire Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, and all of them are with some important figures of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. Most of the important people are in seclusion, so we can't find them at all. But as far as I know, Yun Haitang has an inscription token. As long as we get the token, we can secretly enter the treasure land of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy and take the heavenly demon fruit. Of course, it's also good to take some other treasures along the way. Xian Yanqing smiled and sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. Oh! Lu Ming nodded. He started to think about how to get the inscription token. Quiet down, Yun Haitang spoke. Her voice was so sweet that it could melt anyone's heart. For men, this was definitely a killer weapon. As expected, many people's eyes became even more heated. The fire in Jiyu Huashu's eyes seemed to be able to burn Yun Haitang. This time, you'll have 3 months of study, and I'll be in charge of it. Yun Haitang said, of course, I also know that some of you are already very good at alchemy, possibly far better than Haitang. So, I don't dare to say that I'm teaching you. In the future, we can exchange our alchemy experiences and improve together. This is the most important thing. Yun Haitang smiled sweetly and spoke very politely. Miss Haitang, you're too humble. Everyone in the Yunfeng region knows about your alchemy skills. I hope that you can communicate more with Miss Haitang in the future. Miss Haitang, I am the descendant of the Liu family. I hope Miss Haitang can give me some pointers. Haitang, I am. Some young men with extraordinary backgrounds introduced themselves one after another, hoping to attract Yun Haitang's attention. But Yun Haitang only smiled and nodded, not saying much. After a long while, Yun Haitang spoke again. All right, according to the rules, there will be an alchemy test. There is no other meaning. I just want to see everyone's alchemy standards and what you are good at. In the future, it will be more effective to exchange ideas. Does anyone have any objections? No, of course I want this. Everyone shouted. Some of them had even begun to rub their fists and get ready to perform well to attract Yun Haitang's attention. Hee, this trash wants to attract Haitang's attention? He's a toad lusting after a swan's meat. In my opinion, no one in this group can compare to Brother Jiyu in alchemy. That's right. In a moment, Brother Jiyu will definitely amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and attract Haitang's attention. In the future, even if Brother Jiyu returns with a beauty, it is possible. We are really envious. Beside Jiyu Huashu, a few young men started to flatter him. The Jiyu family was very influential in the Yunfeng region, so naturally, there were many people who wanted to flatter Jiyu Huashu. Jiyu Huashu's face was filled with pride. In his opinion, these people were all half-baked, while his Jiyu family was a professional alchemist. In the Yunfeng region, their reputation was only a little less than the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. He had absolute confidence in his alchemy skills. The test is simple. You just need to refine a cultivation pill and hand it over to me, Yun Haitang introduced. Then, the disciples of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution presented an alchemy furnace to the public square. Everyone was given a spiritual medicine to make a Peiyuan pill. Pill furnaces and spirit herbs were the same. Next, it was time to test his alchemy skills. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing casually walked to the front of 2 alchemy furnaces. However, He realized that Jiyu Huashu had also come to their side. This guy was definitely doing this on purpose. He probably wanted to show off his skills to Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming. Alright, let's start now. The time is half an hour, Yun Haitang announced after everyone had chosen their elixir furnaces. As soon as Yun Haitang finished speaking, everyone focused their attention and began to refine. In the square, wisps of mental energy fire appeared, and the heat began to rise. I didn't expect it to refine the essence cultivating pill. My luck is pretty good. Lu Ming revealed a smile. The vitality pill was a very common pill. It was a level 2 pill. Lu Ming happened to have the vitality pill among the pills he had. Lu Ming was not in a hurry to start refining. Instead, he scanned his surroundings. He realized that everyone was concentrating on controlling their mental energy fire and refining pills. Hey, this girl is actually a 4th-rank alchemist. I can't tell. Lu Ming noticed the green flame in Xian Yanqing's hand. It flashed and disappeared. The green mental fire represented a level 4 alchemist. The cultivation of an inscriber was much more difficult and slower than that of martial arts. It was already impressive that he had become a 4th-rank inscriber at such a young age. More importantly, Xian Yanqing's progress in martial arts was even more terrifying. Lu Ming realized that there was also a green flame in Jiyu Huashu's hand. It flashed and disappeared. He was also a 4th-rank alchemist. No wonder he was so proud. Then, I'll start too. Lu Ming smiled. With a roll of his quintessential essence, the lid of the alchemy furnace opened. Lu Ming patted the furnace, and a wisp of yellow mental energy fire flashed and disappeared. It surged into the alchemy furnace and began to heat it. Just as Lu Ming began to refine the pill, Yun Haitang's expression suddenly changed and she looked in Lu Ming's direction. What a strong and pure mental fire. Although he's only a 3rd-rank alchemist, the fire seed he uses is no small matter. The number of mental lamps he has lit is no small matter, either. He has at least 4 or even 5 in each rank. Yun Haitang's mind whirred. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Lu Ming's side, and they were filled with wonder. However, he did not think that Lu Ming could have lit more than 6 spirit lamps at each level. That was because he was already a true inscription blacksmith. It was too difficult to reach that level. To become a true inscription refiner, it did not mean that one only needed to light 6 spirit lamps at a certain level. One had to light more than 6 spirit lamps at each level. Lu Ming did not know that he had attracted Yun Haitang's attention. He was focused on refining the pills. After a while, the pill furnace was heated up. He used his true essence to roll it up and began to put in various spirit herbs. The order in which the spirit herbs were put in was also very particular. The time and timing between each ingredient needed to be grasped precisely. Lu Ming put in the spiritual herbs one by one. When he had put in all the spiritual herbs, he closed the lid of the furnace and continued to input the mental energy fire to start the refinement. A moment later, a strong medicinal fragrance was emitted. At this time, he could start to condense the pill. This was the most important step. To congeal the pill, one needed to use inscriptions. The better the control of the inscriptions, the more exquisite the pill would be, the better the fusion of the two would be, and the better the effect would be. Chapter 627. 627. A useless pill. Lu Ming's fingers started to inscribe runes in the air. The runes flew into the pill furnace and disappeared. Such exquisite inscription techniques. On the square, Yun Haitang's eyes lit up again. Lu Ming focused his attention and runes flew into the furnace. After a while, there was no longer any medicinal fragrance coming from the furnace. Success. Lu Ming revealed a smile. Then, he opened the furnace, took out the elixir, and placed it on a jade plate. Lu Ming looked around and realized that the others had also started to open their furnaces to take out pills. Haha, this is the pill you made. What kind of dog shit is this? No one would even pick it up if it was thrown on the road. At this moment, a sneer was heard. Jiyu Huashu walked towards Lu Ming with a jade plate on which the pills he had refined were on. He looked at the pills on Lu Ming's jade plate with disdain and said sarcastically, "The color is uneven." It's obvious that you've placed the spirit medicine at the wrong time. Also, what the hell is this? There's not a single inscription on the pill, and there's no medicinal fragrance coming from it. This is clearly a useless pill. Haha, don't tell me you don't even know how to write an inscription. Jiyu Huashu laughed and revealed a look of disdain. His laughter attracted the attention of the people around him. They all looked at Lu Ming's pill. As expected, there's not a single inscription on it and there's no medicinal fragrance at all. It's indeed a useless pill. This person doesn't know how to refine pills at all. What is he doing here? He's probably some hedonistic son of some family. He's like a toad lusting after swan meat and wants to pursue Haitang. TSK, I've seen many people like this. How could Haitang take a fancy to such a person? The people around them looked at Lu Ming's pills and started whispering. Young Master Ji Yu, this person is obviously a popinjay who doesn't know how to refine pills. How can he be compared to young Master Ji Yu? That's right. Look at young Master Gu's elixirs. They are round and full, with even colors. The inscriptions are exquisite, and the medicinal fragrance is strong. They are obviously the top-grade Lever 2 elixirs. No one in this group can compare with young Master Ji Yu. Beside Jiyu Huashu, a few young men started to flatter him. Although they were flattering him, they were right. The Pi Yuan pill that Jiyu Huashu refined was indeed the best. When the surrounding people saw Jiyu Huashu's pills, they all shook their heads and sighed. They couldn't compare to Jiyu Huashu's pills at all. Lu Ming, ignore them. Xian Yanqing walked over and looked at Lu Ming's pill. Her opinion was similar to the others. However, she knew that Lu Ming had only been in contact with the Tao of Inscription for a few months. It was normal for him to refine a useless pill. After all, Lu Ming's main focus was on cultivating martial arts. Lu Ming touched his nose and smiled. He did not say much. All right, bring out your pills and sign your names, Yun Haitang ordered. Everyone took the refined pills and put them into a jade bottle, then signed their names on the label of the jade bottle. All right, today, you will follow Deacon Suifeng and find your own dormitory. Tomorrow morning, you will gather here, Yun Haitang said. After that, everyone followed the middle-aged man and went to find their own accommodation. After the crowd left, Yun Haitang took out a jade bottle immediately. The name on the bottle was Lu Ming. Yun Haitang poured out the pills that Lu Ming had refined and observed them carefully. Haitang, this is clearly a useless pill. What is there to see? The two old men at the side said. A useless pill? Uncles, this time, you've misjudged. Yun Haitang smiled slightly, and a look of surprise flashed in her eyes. Oh! The two elders were a little puzzled. They observed the pills that Lu Ming refined in detail. After taking a closer look, the two old men's expressions changed. They became a little solemn, and slowly, their solemn expressions turned into shock. What a brilliant inscription technique, and what a pure pill, the two old men exclaimed in unison. Uncles, I'm sure you can tell that the color of this pill is not well proportioned on the surface. The timing of adding the spiritual herbs was not particularly precise. However, the pill is extremely pure and has almost no impurities. This means that the person who refined the pill has an extraordinary mental energy fire that can burn all the impurities and extract them. Also, this person's inscription technique is extremely exquisite. It's completely hidden under the surface of the pill, and can't be seen from the outside. However, he has fused the pill perfectly and completely locked the medicinal effect. That's why there's no medicinal fragrance coming out. After saying that, a green flame appeared between Yun Haitang's fingers. A green flame represented a 5th-level alchemist. Yun Haitang was only in her 20s, but she had already become a 5th-level alchemist. It was shocking. The green mental energy fire flowed across the surface of the pill. Inscriptions appeared on the surface of the pill, intertwining with each other in a harmonious and beautiful manner. The two old men's eyes widened, and their surprise became even stronger. This Lu Ming is interesting. A strange smile appeared on Yun Haitang's face, and there seemed to be a hint of greed in her smile. As for the other pills, Yun Haitang didn't even look at them. She was not interested. The Cloud Sea elixir dispensary was huge. Everyone had their own small courtyard, and the environment was not bad. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in his room in the courtyard. He activated the meditation and began to cultivate his mental energy fire. Currently, Lu Ming's cultivation base had already reached a bottleneck while the Dragon God's 3 absolutes had been cultivated to perfection. As for the 5th step of the 9 Dragons' Heaven Treading Steps, it was too difficult and could not be achieved in a short time. The power of the 5th step of the 9 Dragons' Heaven Treading Steps was equivalent to the 6th stage of a low-grade demigod martial technique. It was extremely terrifying. Martial techniques above the heaven level, even at the demigod level, were also divided into low-grade and high-grade. Only after the demigod level was the god level. Therefore, Lu Ming spent more time on cultivating the inscription Dao. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. The next day, everyone gathered in the square again. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing came together. Soon, hundreds of people had arrived. In the sky, 2 figures stepped through the air. A man and a woman. The woman was naturally Yun Haitang. The man was about 25 or 26 years old. He was very handsome, and there was a faint arrogance on his face. He came side by side with Yun Haitang and landed in the sky above the square. That's the other peerless genius of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, Yun Tsongsheng. He's extremely powerful in both alchemy and martial arts. He's the second most talented person in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, only Yun Haitang. Furthermore, his father is the head of the Yun family, a Sea of Soul Realm expert. He's so handsome and has a good background. He's handsome and talented. If I can marry him, my life will be worth it. A young woman said as if she was smitten. Everyone. Yun Haitang called out, and the crowd quieted down. I've seen all the pills you made yesterday. Sure enough, some of you are very good at alchemy. Even Haitang admires you. I don't dare to teach you. This time, we're mainly exchanging ideas and improving each other. Yun Haitang smiled and continued, this time, Haitang has decided that the one with the best alchemy skills can enter Haitang's courtyard at any time and discuss alchemy with her. Chapter 628. 628 Embarrassing to the extreme. As soon as he said that, it immediately caused a commotion. Among their group, there was someone who had caught Yun Haitang's attention and was able to enter Yun Haitang's courtyard at will to discuss the art of alchemy with her. What did this mean? This meant that Yun Haitang had placed this person on the same level as her. More importantly, he could enter Yun Haitang's courtyard at any time. As the saying went, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. If he came into contact with Yun Haitang more often, he might develop feelings for her. Most of the men, young or old, had eyes full of anticipation. Those who knew their own limits sighed inwardly, knowing that it wouldn't be them. Haha, I think Miss Haitang is most likely talking about you, young Master Ji. That's right. Among this group of people, who has less alchemy skills than Ji? I'm envious. The few people beside Ji Huashu started to suck up. Hey, it might not be me. Maybe there are people who are better at alchemy. You should know that there is always a higher mountain, Ji Huashu said humbly. Although his words were humble, the pride on his face could not be concealed. Haitang, he must be talking about me. Could it be that he has secretly taken a fancy to me? Otherwise, why would he let me go to his courtyard to discuss alchemy? Haha, it must be so. Ji Huashu thought to himself. Congratulations, young Master Ji. You'll be returning with a beauty soon. Someone even whispered beside Ji Huashu, making him laugh so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. Haitang, who is the person you are talking about who is so skilled in alchemy? Someone shouted. Yu Haitang smiled and said, this person is young and has a graceful bearing. He is a young man. Haitang, you're too polite. I'm not worthy of your praise. As soon as Yun Haitang finished speaking, Ji Huashu stood up and pretended to be humble. Many people also looked at Ji Huashu with envy. In their eyes, the person Yun Haitang was talking about must be Ji Huashu. However, Yun Haitang looked at Ji Huashu in shock and said, Brother, what are you doing? I'm not talking about you. The smile on Ji Huashu's face froze. The entire place suddenly fell silent. Poochie. After a while, someone couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed out loud. Jiyu Huashu's expression was too funny. Some people tried their best to hold it in until their faces turned red, while some people laughed out loud. The few people who were flattering Jiyu Huashu just now were also frozen there. Jiyu Huashu's body trembled, and his handsome face turned red. It was embarrassing. It was too embarrassing. It turned out that the person Yun Haitang was talking about wasn't him at all. To think that he was still thinking about his own wishful thinking. He had lost a lot of face. And what did Yun Haitang call him? Brother. She didn't even know his name. Jiyu Huashu wished there was a crack in the ground so he could just jump in. In the end, he could only sit down with a red face. The few people beside him did not even dare to look at him. The hero I'm talking about is called Lu Ming. Yun Haitang smiled and continued. Lu Ming. As soon as he said that, the people around them looked at each other. Who was Lu Ming? How come I've never heard of it? Only one person widened his eyes in surprise. Lu Ming, she's not talking about you, right? Xian Yanqing widened his eyes and looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. She had also taken a glance at the pills that Lu Ming had refined back then. How was it possible? If there's no other person named Lu Ming at the scene who is equally graceful, then this Lu Ming should be me. Lu Ming touched his nose and said. Really shameless. Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at Lu Ming, but he was still very curious. Don't tell me that the pill you refined has some sort of skill. Hihi, maybe Miss Yun Haitang has taken a fancy to me. Lu Ming chuckled. Shameless. Xian Yanqing said in disdain. At this moment, Yun Haitang's gaze fell on Lu Ming. Brother Lu, what do you think of Haitang's suggestion? Lu Ming looked around and finally confirmed that Yun Haitang was talking about him. He smiled and stood up. Thank you, Haitang. I think it's very good. Yun Haitang's face lit up with joy. Brother Lu's alchemy skills. This little sister admires you very much. In the future, please guide me. Haitang, you're too polite. Lu Ming said with a smile. Impossible, how could it be him? Haitang, you must be mistaken. At this time, a gloomy voice sounded. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice. It was Jiyu Huashu. Oh, how did I get it wrong? Yun Haitang asked. Miss Haitang, the pill this man refined yesterday was not well proportioned in color and did not have a strong medicinal fragrance. It was clearly a useless pill. This man's alchemy skills are a mess. Miss Haitang, don't be fooled. Jiyu Huashu shouted. That's right, Haitang. I also saw that this person basically doesn't know how to make pills. Yes, I saw it too. Around them, many other people also spoke. Oh, don't you trust my judgment? Yun Haitang asked, still smiling. Miss Haitang, it's not that we don't trust your eyes, but I'm guessing that this guy used some method at the last minute to exchange for the pill. The pill he gave you was not refined by him at all. Jiyu Huashu shouted. Initially, when he saw that Xian Yanqing was with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing ignored him when he greeted him, he was already very unhappy with Lu Ming. Just now, it was because of Lu Ming that he had lost all his face. Now that he had the chance to embarrass Lu Ming, he would naturally seize the opportunity and not let it go. Oh. Yun Haitang nodded slightly. A jade bottle appeared in her hand, and she poured out a pill. Holding it in her hand, she asked, Are you guys talking about this pill? This is the pill. Jiyu Huashu was stunned and nodded. That's right, it's this one. The others nodded in agreement. That's good. I said that Brother Lu's alchemy skills are superb because of this pill, Yun Haitang said with a smile. How could this be? This is clearly a useless pill. Jiyu Huashu's face was filled with shock. A useless pill? You guys watch carefully. The green spiritual fire on Yun Haitang's finger flowed through it. The next moment, lines of inscriptions appeared on the surface of the pill, intertwining with each other. It was extremely beautiful. The inscription was hidden and the medicinal effect was deeply locked. How was it possible? How is this possible? Jiyu Huashu cried out in disbelief. After all, he was a level 4 alchemist born in the world of alchemy, so he had a good eye. Naturally, he could see the truth of the pill at a glance. The others also widened their eyes in shock. The inscription was introverted. This was not something that ordinary people could do. Only those who had a profound understanding of inscriptions and were proficient in them could do it. This represented a certain realm, and only grandmasters in the alchemy world could do it. As far as everyone knew, there were only 3 people in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy who could do this. Chapter 629. 629 Weird Logic. Yun Haitang held the pill that Lu Ming had refined and explained. Under the effect of the inscriptions, this elixir combined all the spiritual herbs perfectly. It's also very pure, and its medicinal effect is deeply locked. It's more than 30% better than the most top-grade level 2 energy cultivation elixir. Now, is there anything that you're not convinced about? Yun Haitang's eyes swept across the crowd. No one spoke. How could this be? You should die. Jiyu Huashu roared in his heart. He looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Today, he had really lost a lot of face. It was embarrassing before, and even more so now. He sat down with a gloomy face. He was extremely jealous of Lu Ming. Not only was there a rare beauty by Lu Ming's side, but he also had the opportunity to interact with Yun Haitang. He was so jealous that his eyes were about to burst into flames. You bastard. Xian Yanqing was speechless. She realized that he could never see through Lu Ming. Brother Lu, take this begonia flower and you can enter my courtyard at any time. Yun Haitang waved her hand and a begonia flower flew toward Lu Ming. It was a begonia flower sculpted from beautiful jade, as if it was real. Thank you, Miss Haitang. Lu Ming reached out to receive it and smiled. Then, he sat down with a smile. Pervert, you can't move after seeing a beautiful woman. You're indeed a perverted man. Xian Yanqing snorted in disdain. You're not jealous, are you? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing with a smile. Xian Yanqing blushed and pouted. Who's jealous? Don't be so smug. Who would be jealous of you? Chumph, go and find your Haitang girl. But let me tell you, this Haitang flower is very prickly. Don't get yourself into trouble before you get to take advantage of her. Don't worry. I'll get her token of inscription. Lu Ming smiled and sent a voice transmission. Everyone. At this moment, Yun Tsongsheng, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. I also want to learn from Haitang and choose a person with great alchemy skills. He can come to me at any time to discuss alchemy. Yun Tsongsheng's words made many women's spirits rise, especially some young women. They looked at Yun Tsongsheng with burning eyes, hoping to attract his attention. Yun Tsongsheng's eyes turned and finally landed on Xian Yanqing. His eyes flashed with a fiery light and he smiled gently. Miss Xian Yanqing, I admire your alchemy skills. You can come to my courtyard anytime to discuss alchemy with me. How about it? The crowd followed Yun Tsongsheng's gaze and looked at Xian Yanqing. So it's her. No wonder she attracted Yun Tsongsheng's attention. The same thought flashed through many people's minds. Xian Yanqing's beauty was known to everyone. Other than Jiyu Huashu, there were more than 10 other young men who tried to talk to Xian Yanqing, but they were all chased away by Xian Yanqing. Many girls looked at Xian Yanqing with jealousy, but they also sighed in their hearts. They knew that they couldn't compare to Xian Yanqing. I'm not interested. To everyone's surprise, Xian Yanqing's reply was a cold one, no interest. The smile on Yun Tsongsheng's face froze. He didn't expect Xian Yanqing to reject him so directly. How could he get out of this situation? Miss Xie, please consider it. Yun Tsongsheng's face turned cold. I'm not interested. Xian Yanqing rejected her without hesitation. Yun Tsongsheng's face darkened. He had heard from others that there was a beautiful woman in this group, which was why he had come out with Yun Haitang. As soon as he arrived, he saw Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing's beauty moved his heart. He had wanted to learn from Yun Haitang and let Xian Yanqing interact with him more. After a while, how could Xian Yanqing escape from his grasp? However, he didn't expect Xian Yanqing to reject him so blatantly. Good, very good. Good, Yun Tsongsheng said. A vicious look flashed in the depths of his eyes. Then, he turned around and left. Xian Yanqing pursed his lips and didn't take it to heart. Yu Haitang glanced at Xian Yanqing. No one knew what she was thinking, but she smiled and said, "All right, today, I will be explaining some knowledge of alchemy. If Haitang says something wrong, everyone can raise it and we can discuss it together." Then, Yun Haitang sat cross-legged on a futon and began to explain. Lu Ming also listened to it seriously. Although his mastery of inscriptions had reached a certain level, he was still a little rusty in alchemy. Otherwise, the pill wouldn't have such an uneven color. To be honest, Yun Haitang did have a deep understanding of the art of alchemy. Lu Ming was like a sponge, absorbing the knowledge of alchemy like crazy. Yun Haitang's lecture went on for 3 hours before she ended it. The crowd also dispersed. "Lu Ming, when do you plan to make your move?" Xian Yanqing asked on the way. "In 2 days, find an opportunity to take action and seize the token of inscription." Lu Ming said. "Hey, I say, don't be unable to resist the temptation of beauty." Xian Yanqing glared at Lu Ming and said worriedly. However, Lu Ming suddenly looked at her. Without blinking, he suddenly approached her and whispered, "Don't worry, I can definitely withstand other people's beauty, but I can't withstand your beauty. You pervert." Xian Yanqing's face turned red and he kicked out. Lu Ming laughed and flew back, avoiding the kick and moving forward. "Hey, this guy, why is his luck so good? He can meet beautiful women everywhere he goes. I've never met so many beautiful women in the 9 heavens and 10 land." Dandan sighed repeatedly. She was jealous of Lu Ming. Soon, they were close to the dormitory. A few figures blocked the two's path. Jiyu Huashu and a few other young men. Lu Ming smiled faintly. It seemed that Jiyu Huashu could not hold it in any longer. "What business do you have here?" Lu Ming smiled faintly. "What business do you have? Kid, don't you know what you've done wrong?" A young man beside Jiyu Huashu shouted. "That's right. Today, you've embarrassed young Master Hua. You've committed a heinous crime. Do you know your crime?" Another young man followed suit. "I embarrassed him? Haha, how laughable." Lu Ming laughed heartily. "Kid, what are you laughing at? What's so funny about that?" Jiyu Huashu said coldly. "Isn't it funny? Did I embarrass you? You asked for it, all right? In the beginning, before Haitang could finish, you stood up by yourself. And later on, you were the one who stood up and said that my pills were not good enough. From the beginning to the end, have I ever said a single word? If you didn't ask for this, then what?" Lu Ming said with a smile. "How dare you? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have lost face in public. If it wasn't for you, the first place would have been me." Jiyu Huashu shouted. Lu Ming was speechless. He really did not understand the logic of this brother. He didn't have the ability, yet he blamed everything on others. How ridiculous was this? This was akin to blaming others for their good grades when one could not be the top scorer. Lu Ming could not understand such logic. Chapter 630. 630 Chapter 630 Conspiracy. Lu Ming shook his head. He could not be bothered to say anything to such a person. "Kid, kneel down and admit your mistake. Then destroy your cultivation and get out of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. If you do that, I can spare your life." Jiyu Huashu said coldly. "Idiot." Lu Ming sighed. "Kid, what did you say?" Jiyu Huashu's face turned dark. "I said, idiot, get lost. Good dogs don't block the way." Lu Ming said coldly. "Little bastard, you're looking for death. How dare you talk to young Master Jiyu like that? I'll cripple you." At the edge of the ancient flower void, a young man rushed out. He pointed his fingers like a sword and shot out beams of sword chi at Lu Ming's major acupuncture points. This young man had the cultivation of a lever 5 martial king. If he was stabbed, Lu Ming's cultivation would be crippled. Bang! However, before his sword aura could even get close to Lu Ming, he was kicked away by Lu Ming. After flying for a few hundred meters, he crashed into a mound and dust filled the air. At this moment, some people in the surroundings were alarmed and stopped to watch from a distance. That Lu Ming seems to be quite powerful. He's just a 5th level lower tier king and he was sent flying with one move. I've never heard of him before. Could he be a genius from another region? In the surroundings, some people were whispering to each other. Jiyu Huashu's face turned even colder. So you have some ability. However, this bit of ability is nothing in front of me. Die. Jiyu Huashu's figure moved and he struck a palm at Lu Ming. The palm struck and the air rumbled with a sonic boom. The force of the palm was like an avalanche, surging towards Lu Ming. A king tier at the peak of the 7th level of the martial king realm. This was Jiyu Huashu's strength. At this age, to be able to reach this stage was already very good. Unfortunately, he had met Lu Ming. A long spear appeared in his hand and he swept it out. Bang! The spear collided with Jiyu Huashu's palm, and Jiyu Huashu's body retreated rapidly. Lu Ming and Wei Ran did not move. Of course, this was the result of Lu Ming holding back his power. Otherwise, Jiyu Huashu would have been blown up by the spear. Lu Ming did not want to reveal too much of his power and attract the attention of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Otherwise, it would be more difficult to obtain the heavenly demon fruit and the other party would definitely be more vigilant. Lu Ming suppressed his strength to be slightly stronger than Jiyu Huashu. Damn it, kill! Jiyu Huashu roared in anger and charged at Lu Ming again. His palm turned red and gold. One palm print after another landed on Lu Ming. The violent palm force shook the space. Lu Ming's long spear vibrated and shot out rays of spear radiance that clashed with Jiyu Huashu's palm force. With every spear radiance, Jiyu Huashu's palm print crumbled. Lu Ming strode forward and closed in on him. Lose. In the end, Lu Ming shouted and whipped his spear at Jiyu Huashu, sending him flying. Jiyu Huashu struggled to get up and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he glared at Lu Ming with hatred. Kid, just you wait. After saying that, Jiyu Huashu ran away. This Lu Ming is so strong. Not only is his alchemy technique brilliant, but his cultivation level is also very strong. He's a pretty good genius to have reached the late stages of the king tier at such a young age. Let's try not to provoke him in the future. The rest of the people looked at Lu Ming with fear and left one after another. I thought you would kill him in one move, Xian Yanqing said. It's easy to kill him, I'm just afraid of alerting the enemy. Lu Ming smiled and the two of them returned to the dormitory. As night fell, two figures were discussing something in a luxurious courtyard of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. This was Begonia Courtyard. These two people were Yun Haitang and Yun Tsongsheng. Hehe, that Jiyu Huashu actually made a move. That saved us a lot of trouble. I was planning to send someone to test Lu Ming's strength. Yun Haitang picked up a cup of red wine, took a sip, and smiled. Lever 7 King Warrior is not bad, but he's not a threat to us. That BTCH Xian Yanqing actually dared to reject me in public. Damn it, she's just BTCH, she's just putting on an act. I'll make her beg for mercy in my bed one day, Yun Tsongsheng said coldly. His voice was ice cold and his eyes were filled with lust. Don't touch that woman for now. At least, don't touch her before I get my hands on her. Otherwise, what if my prey is scared away? I feel that Lu Ming's mental energy fire is extraordinary. It must be delicious. As she spoke, Yun Haitang stuck out her tongue and licked her lips. Her eyes were filled with greed. This action was extremely provocative. Yun Tsongsheng swallowed a mouthful of saliva as he watched. His eyes were burning and his abdomen was burning. What's wrong? Want to come? I'll accompany you. Yun Haitang licked her lips and looked at Yun Tsongsheng with a seductive gaze. However, Yun Tsongsheng shivered and his body shrank back. A trace of fear flashed across his eyes as he smiled and said, "Forget it, I still have things to do, I'll be leaving first." After he finished speaking, Yun Tsongsheng left Begonia Courtyard as if he was escaping. Lu Ming, Yun Haitang murmured, and the greed in her eyes grew stronger. For 3 days in a row, different people explained the art of alchemy to them every day. Lu Ming's understanding of alchemy improved by leaps and bounds, and his alchemy skills also improved a lot. During this period, Lu Ming also tried to refine a few pills. He could clearly feel that every time he succeeded in refining a pill, the law of inscription would drop a trace of inscription power, strengthening his mental energy fire. However, The level of the pills he refined was lower than his inscription level. The flame of inscription that dropped was very little. Only by refining high-quality elixirs or elixirs of a higher grade than one's own would the inscription flames descend from the inscription laws be more. It would be of great help to the cultivation of mental energy fire. However, to reach that level was not something that could be achieved in a short time. For the past 3 days, Lu Ming did not look for Yun Haitang, and Yun Haitang did not send anyone to look for him. On the 3rd day, as night fell, a figure appeared in Lu Ming's dormitory. It was Xian Yanqing. "Lu Ming, I'll bring you to see something interesting," Xian Yanqing said. "Interesting things?" Lu Ming was stunned. "Follow me. Be careful," Xian Yanqing said. Then, the two of them concealed their auras and left the Cloud Sea Elixir dispensary. Soon, a few figures in black robes leaped out from the other side of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy and flew into the distance. "Let's go, we'll follow," Xian Yanqing muttered as the two of them followed the black-robed men and flew for hundreds of thousands of miles. At this moment, a few black-robed men suddenly landed in a small village. "We need to hurry up. We must collect the 99 innate blood qi by tonight," one of them said. Lu Ming found his voice somewhat familiar. "They are indeed here to collect the innate blood qi." Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Chapter 631. 631 Killing Yun Tsongsheng. A total of 3 black-robed men silently rushed into a wooden house. In the wooden house, there was a young man and a young woman who were not even 20 years old, and an infant. The black-robed man waved his hand, and 2 streams of Jin Yuan poured into the bodies of the young man and woman, causing them to fall unconscious. Then, the 3 black-robed men carved runes on their hands and inserted them into the baby's body. A blood-red gas was slowly extracted from the baby's heart. Damn it! Lu Ming's eyes flickered with cold murderous intent. Although he had heard about it, he still could not control the murderous intent in his heart when he saw it with his own eyes. Extracting the carnate qi of infants to refine pills was a brutal method that took away one's life. Lu Ming did not hide his aura anymore. He strode into the wooden house. "Who is it?" The 3 black-robed men immediately noticed someone and shouted, "The person who will kill you." Lu Ming walked into the wooden house with a cold look in his eyes. Xian Yanqing followed suit. "It's the 2 of you. Haha, since you've discovered this, I can only send you on your way. I originally wanted to let you live for a few more days." One of the black-robed men sneered. "Yun Tsongsheng." Lu Ming's gaze flickered. No wonder he felt that this person's voice was familiar. At this moment, he guessed that it was Yun Tsongsheng. "Hehe, that's me." The black-robed man took off the hood on his head, revealing a face full of killing intent. It was Yun Tsongsheng. Yun Tsongsheng's fiery eyes fell on Xian Yanqing and he sneered, "Bitch, you actually dared to reject me in public. Do you know that it's your fortune that this young master has taken a fancy to you? Today, I'll cripple your cultivation first, and then let you enjoy it." Lu Ming, leave this guy to me." Xian Yanqing's voice was cold and emotionless. "Of course you can." Lu Ming had already mourned for Yun Tsongsheng in his heart. "Attack. Just cripple their cultivation. I want them alive." Yun Tsongsheng waved his hand. Buzz. Buzz. At the same time, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing retreated from the wooden house and flew into the sky. "You want to leave? Don't even think about it." Yun Tsongsheng and the other 2 chased after him and reached a high altitude. "Leave? Who wants to leave? It's just that it's more convenient here." Lu Ming smiled faintly. "Do it. I'll leave this kid to you. I'll personally serve that bitch." Yun Tsongsheng sneered and released a powerful aura. He was at the peak of Lever 8 Martial King Realm. Yun Tsongsheng had actually reached the peak of Lever 8 Martial King Realm. No wonder he was so arrogant. Boom. Boom. The other 2 black-robed men's auras also burst out. They were also at the early stage of the Lever 8 Martial King Realm. Both of them pounced toward Lu Ming. Whoosh. Whoosh. Before the 2 black-robed men could reach him, their throats were pierced by the 2 spear lights, and they even let out a scream. Lu Ming's body flashed past and devoured their blood essence. The storage ring was also in his hands. This This. Yun Songsheng's eyes suddenly widened as he looked at this scene in disbelief. Wasn't Lu Ming's cultivation level only slightly higher than Jiyu Huashu's? How did he suddenly become so strong? 2 Lever 8 Martial King Realm experts were killed before they could even react. Hiding his abilities. Lu Ming must have hidden his abilities earlier. Let's go. Without any hesitation, Yun Songsheng turned around and ran. To be able to kill 2 Lever 8 Martial King Realm experts so easily, her combat strength was definitely above his. You want to leave? Xian Yanqing's eyes turned cold. He raised one of his jade-like hands and pressed it in the air. An invisible force field was created, and Yun Songsheng's body was frozen in the air, unable to move at all. What a wondrous martial technique! Lu Ming was shocked. He had already experienced this martial arts technique before. It was indeed extremely powerful. He had asked Xian Yanqing about it and learned that it was called the Sky Demon Force Field. However, Xian Yanqing had only just started learning about it. She had come to the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution to obtain the Sky Demon Fruit to cultivate the Sky Demon Force Field. With the Heavenly Demonic Fruit, her Heavenly Demonic Power Field could be upgraded to a higher level. Yun Songsheng was extremely frightened and tried his best to stab the needle. However, with his cultivation, he couldn't break free from the restraint of the Sky Demon Power Field. Let me go, what do you want? My father is the head of the Yun family, a Sea of Soul Realm expert. If you dare to kill me, my father will not let you off. Yun Songsheng shouted in fear. Lu Ming, wait for me here, he said. Xian Yanqing waved his hand and flew away with Yun Songsheng. Not long after, Yun Songsheng's shrill screams could be heard. Lu Ming couldn't bear to hear them. It seems that it's better to not offend women in the future. Lu Ming could feel his back sweating profusely. After a moment, the screams stopped and Xian Yanqing flew back alone. Let's go back, Xian Yanqing said. Dead? Lu Ming asked. Xian Yanqing nodded and flew forward. Lu Ming caught up and said, Yun Song's death will probably cause a commotion in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. We'd better keep a low profile. Xian Yanqing nodded. With their current battle power, it would be very difficult for them to fight against Sea of Soul Realm experts. The Spirit Sea Realm was much stronger than the Martial King Realm. An ordinary peak-tier king, an expert at the first level of the Spiritual Ocean tier, could kill a group of them with a single slap. The 2 of them returned to the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution without anyone noticing. In a mountain range hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, Jiyu Huashu sat cross-legged on a mountain peak. Damn it, that brat, if I don't kill him, I'm not a human. Jiyu Huashu roared in a low voice, his face filled with hatred. Hee, kid, you want to take revenge? Stop dreaming. If I'm not wrong, Lu Ming didn't use his full strength when he fought you. You can even say that he only used a little strength. Suddenly, a dry and unpleasant voice sounded. This voice was extremely sudden, but there was clearly only Jiyu Huashu here. Jiyu Huashu didn't seem surprised at all, he just frowned and roared, Are you saying that Lu Ming did not use his full strength? You should die. Hehe, that's right. If I'm not wrong, that Lu Ming definitely has the combat strength of a peak-tier king. And that young lady gives off a very dangerous feeling. She's probably not weaker than that kid, or even stronger. The shriveled voice sounded again. Damn it, how did this happen? Then wouldn't I be unable to take revenge? Detestable. Jiyu Huashu roared. That's not for sure. You should have prepared the things I told you to prepare, right? As long as you do as I say, I can guarantee that your cultivation will skyrocket in a short time. It'll be more than enough to defeat the man and woman. The shriveled voice said. I've prepared everything, but I can really defeat Lu Ming in a short time. You said just now that he has the combat strength not weaker than a peak-tier king. Jiyu Huashu was in disbelief. Chapter 632. 632 Rapid Improvement. Brat, you're short-sighted. What's the big deal about defeating that brat? In the future, your cultivation will continue to soar, and it will be easy for you to enter the list of top 1,000 talents. At that time, Yun Haitang will throw herself into your arms, and you can have as many beautiful women as you want. The shriveled voice came out and painted a beautiful future for Jiyu Huashu. Jiyu Huashu's eyes were burning with passion. All right, senior, I'll listen to you. Jiyu Huashu gritted his teeth and a wine jar-sized jade bottle appeared in his hand. The jade bottle contained a dark green liquid that gave off a nauseating smell. Jiyu Huashu frowned. Boy, this strange medicine is my life's work. Although it stinks, it's only temporary. A great future awaits you in the future. Drink it quickly, the shriveled voice said. All right. Jiyu Huashu gritted his teeth, picked up the jade bottle, and gulped down the entire bottle of dark green liquid. Good, ha ha ha. The voice laughed excitedly. After a while, dark green lines appeared on Jiyu Huashu's abdomen. They covered his entire body and started to gather towards his head. What's going on? Why do I feel like I can't use my Jin Yuan, I can't even use my intent, and I can't even move my body, what's going on? Jiyu Huashu called out in panic. Ha ha ha, the heavens are on my side, the heavens are on my side. I can finally be resurrected. The shriveled voice let out a maniacal laugh. Then, a shadow flew out from Jiyu Huashu's body. It looked like an old man, and his eyes were filled with excitement. You! What are you trying to do? Jiyu Huashu finally felt that something was wrong. What do you want? Of course, I'm going to use your body to come back to the world. All my efforts were not in vain, haha. The old man laughed wildly before turning into a ray of light and entering Jiyu Huashu's forehead. What are you doing? Get out. And NBSB, arg. Jiyu Huashu hollered. His face was extremely vicious and he was struggling like he was fighting with something. However, half an hour later, Jiyu Huashu's voice became softer and the light in his eyes dimmed. He closed his eyes, but in the next moment, his eyes suddenly opened, revealing a look of excitement and joy. Ha ha ha, I've finally seized this body and returned to the world. Good, very good. Moreover, I've made it in time for the Battle of Kismet, and this body just so happens to meet the requirements. This time, I'm going to seize a great opportunity. Jiyu Huashu laughed. To be exact, he was no longer Jiyu Huashu. Jiyu Huashu, I'll use your identity for now. However, your cultivation is too weak and needs to be improved first. Also, there seems to be some good things in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. You must get them. And NBSB, Jiyu Huashu grinned and then sat down to cultivate. As he cultivated, the spiritual qi in the world started to gather in Jiyu Huashu's body. His aura also started to increase. Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. As expected, from the second day onwards, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing felt that the atmosphere in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution had changed. It had become a little heavy. Moreover, there was no one to give lessons to them. Lu Ming and the rest suddenly became idle. Yun Haitang had also disappeared. She had not shown her face and did not come to look for Lu Ming. Lu Ming knew that something must have happened to Yun Tsongxing, which had alerted the higher-ups of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Many of the things that the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution had done couldn't be exposed. They were afraid of attracting the attention of the major forces. He believed that during this period of time, they would not dare to go out and collect the innate blood qi. Since he was fine, Lu Ming simply stayed in the dormitory and cultivated in peace. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the Supreme Shrine. There were some strange metals placed beside him. They were all refining materials. With a roll of his essential core, a piece of dark golden metal appeared in front of Lu Ming. He stretched out his hand and pointed. A yellow flame flew out, wrapped around the dark golden metal, and began to burn. Lu Ming's mental energy fire used the geocentric flowing flame as its kindling. Its temperature was terrifyingly high. In a short while, the dark golden metal had completely turned into a pool of liquid. It rolled in the air and sizzled in the flame. One could see wisps of black flames floating upwards. These were the impurities in the metal that had been burned. After a moment, Lu Ming added another piece of metal and continued to condense it with his mental energy fire. Just like that, Lu Ming added 6 types of metals in a row. The 6 types of metals turned into liquid and fused together. Slowly, the liquid metal turned into a long sword with strange patterns on it. The blade was extremely sharp. However, it was only a semi-finished product. When the long sword was formed, Lu Ming began to inscribe rapidly in the air with his fingers. Lines of inscriptions flew into the sword and disappeared. The aura on the sword grew stronger and stronger, giving off a sharp feeling. The speed at which Lu Ming's fingers inscribed the runes was getting faster and faster. It was so fast that only a bunch of shadows were left. Who? Half an hour later, Lu Ming heaved a long sigh of relief and stopped inscribing. He also kept his mental energy fire. The long sword landed in Lu Ming's hands. Buzz! Buzz! Lu Ming picked up the long sword and waved it a few times. There was a sharp sound of the sword cutting through the air. A 3rd-level upper spiritual weapon. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up into a smile as he felt the inscription power from the inscription lore. This was Lu Ming's first time forging a weapon, and he had already forged an upper 3rd-level spiritual weapon. Lu Ming was already quite satisfied. This was related to Lu Ming's previous 2 levels, where he had lit up 10 mental lamps in the state of perfection. As long as Lu Ming was familiar with it for a period of time, it would not be too difficult for him to refine 3rd-level exquisite or peerless spiritual weapons. He could even refine 4th-level spiritual weapons. In the following period of time, other than taking some time out every day to comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth and the 9 dragons' heaven treading steps, Lu Ming spent most of his time cultivating the underworld god meditation, refining pills, and refining weapons. Moreover, Lu Ming felt that he was more talented in refining. Under Dandan's guidance, Lu Ming managed to forge a superior 3rd-level spiritual weapon 3 days later. 7 days later, he managed to forge a peerless 3rd-level spiritual weapon. 12 days later, Lu Ming successfully refined a lower 4th-level spiritual weapon. If one refined a high-quality spirit weapon or a spirit weapon that was beyond one's level, the power of inscription from the lore of inscription would increase greatly. It was much faster than cultivating the underworld god visualization. Lu Ming's mental energy fire was improving very quickly. In just half a month, Lu Ming had successfully lit up the 8th spirit lamp and was close to the 9th. Lu Ming's goal was 10 mind lamps. It was only possible for him to possess the underworld god visualization and be able to forge spirit weapons above his level. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't even be able to think about it. The atmosphere in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy had been very strange for the past half a month. However, as time passed, it slowly returned to its previous state. On the 16th day, an elder finally came out to give a lecture. Young Master Lu Ming, Miss Haitang would like to invite you to Begonia Courtyard for a chat. At this moment, a young maidservant came to Lu Ming. Chapter 633. 633 Begonia Courtyard. It was finally here. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Your good fortune is here, you must grasp it well. Xian Yanqing glanced at Lu Ming and said in a strange tone. Lu Ming smiled wryly and winked at Xian Yanqing. Then, he followed the maidservant and headed to Begonia Courtyard. Begonia Courtyard was located on another mountain peak with beautiful scenery. Although it was a courtyard, it was built in a luxurious way and occupied a large area. It could be said that this entire mountain peak was Begonia Courtyard's territory. There were even stone palaces built in the middle of the mountain. The maidservant led Lu Ming around the place and arrived at a stone hall. This stone palace was built in the middle of the mountain, so light couldn't directly shine in. The walls of the stone palace were inlaid with some luminous stones, making the stone palace look hazy. In the stone hall, there was a jade table and a few jade stools. On the jade table, there were already some spirit fruits, wine, and food. After the maidservant brought Lu Ming here, she left, leaving him alone in the stone hall. Lu Ming sized up his surroundings with great interest. Then, he picked up his glass, poured himself a glass of wine, and finished it in one gulp. Good wine. Lu Ming could not help but sigh in admiration. This wine was rich in taste. After it entered his stomach, he felt warm all over and it had an endless aftertaste. Since it's good wine, Brother Lu must drink a few more cups today. A sweet voice was heard, and Yun Haitang walked in. Today, Yun Haitang was wearing a black gauze dress and looked very beautiful. To be honest, Yun Haitang's figure was extremely impressive and was only slightly inferior to Mulan's. Any man would be tempted. Lu Ming was a normal man. Yun Haitang sat on the stone bench next to Lu Ming and smiled. "Brother Lu, I gave you the right to come to Begonia Courtyard to find me at any time, but you didn't come after such a long time, and even asked this little sister to send someone to invite you. That's not very kind of you. You must drink 3 cups as a punishment." Yun Haitang poured a glass of wine for Lu Ming. She smiled sweetly and her voice was so sweet that it could penetrate one's heart. "All right, you deserve to be punished." Lu Ming smiled, picked up the glass of wine, and drank it in one go. Then, Yun Haitang poured another glass of wine for Lu Ming. Just like that, Lu Ming drank 3 glasses in a row. "I'm really impressed by Brother Lu's Tao of inscription. I feel that even though you're only a 3rd-rank alchemist, your spiritual power should be on par with some 4th-rank alchemists. Could it be that you've lit 5 spiritual lamps at every rank?" Yun Haitang blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled. "Not bad. I'm lucky to have lit up 5 mental lamps in the first 2 levels." As soon as Lu Ming said this, Yun Haitang's eyes suddenly lit up. There was a flash of greed in the depths of her eyes. Brother Lu's talent is really admirable. "Come, let me toast you." Yun Haitang picked up the glass and drank it all. After drinking the glass of wine, Yun Haitang's face immediately flushed red, making her look even more alluring. At this moment, a maidservant hurriedly walked in. Yun Haitang's face immediately darkened. "Can't you see that I'm drinking with young Master Lu? What are you doing here, miss?" The maidservant's face paled, and a hint of fear appeared on her face. However, she still walked over and whispered a few words into Yun Haitang's ear. Yun Haitang's expression changed slightly. "You may leave." The maidservant immediately took her leave. "Brother Lu, I have a small matter to deal with." "Wait for me here," Yun Haitang said in a sweet voice. "All right, it's fine. Haitang, please do as you please." Lu Ming smiled. Yun Haitang stood up and left. Lu Ming picked up the glass of wine and took another sip. Then, he stood up and started to inscribe in the air with his hands. Runes appeared one after another and entered his body. This was an inscription formation that had been inscribed before to conceal one's aura. Although this formation wasn't very advanced, it had a unique effect in concealing one's aura. According to Dandan, this was its own creation. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, even a Sea of Soul Realm expert would not be able to sense his aura. Runes appeared on Lu Ming's body and disappeared in a flash. The aura on Lu Ming's body also disappeared without a trace. It was much more effective than him circulating his cultivation to hide his aura. Then, Lu Ming moved and left the stone hall. He passed through several corridors and secret rooms before he saw another stone hall. A voice came from the stone hall. Lu Ming dashed into the stone hall silently and hid in a corner. This stone hall was even bigger than the one Lu Ming had been in earlier. A young man was sitting at a table with Yun Haitang. "Haitang, I haven't seen you in a while. I've missed you so much. You see, I came to see you as soon as I finished my business." The young man looked at Yun Haitang, his eyes burning with anger. "You really missed me? You're not allowed to lie to me." Yun Haitang smiled and poured the young man a cup of wine. "Of course it's true. Sigh, if it weren't for the problem with my cultivation of mental fire recently, not only not making any progress, but also constantly regressing, I really don't want to leave. I want to stay here and accompany you," the young man said. "Your family's elders didn't find out the reason for your mental fire's regression?" Yun Haitang's eyes flashed as she asked in a sweet voice. "No, it's really strange," the young man mumbled. Then, his eyes fell on Yun Haitang with a burning desire. "I don't care. If my mental fire has regressed, so be it. As long as Haitang is here, even if I can't cultivate, it doesn't matter." As he spoke, the young man put his arm around Yun Haitang. The two of them were entangled. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He did not expect to encounter such a scene when he came to check on the situation. To be honest, this was the first time Lu Ming had seen such a situation. He touched his nose and watched with great interest. The young man's breathing became heavier and heavier. A moment later, the young man let out a low roar like a wild beast. At this moment, a scene that shocked Lu Ming appeared. 3 green spirit lamps appeared above the young man's head. On them were green spirit fire. This meant that the young man was a level 4 inscriber. Above Yun Haitang's head, a spirit lamp also appeared. There were 5 green spirit lamps. But at this time, Yun Haitang's spirit fire had actually gathered into a poisonous snake. It opened its mouth and sucked. The young man's spirit fire was absorbed by the poisonous snake and turned into Yun Haitang's spirit fire. Chapter 634. 634 You're making me very awkward. The young man was currently immersed in happiness and did not notice his own abnormality at all. Yun Haitang's eyes flashed with crazy greed. That poisonous snake kept absorbing the young man's mental energy fire. The flames of the young man's 3 mind lamps quickly dimmed, especially the flame of the 3rd lamp, which was on the verge of being extinguished. It was no wonder that the young man had said that his mental fire was weakening and that his cultivation of the mental fire was not advancing but regressing instead. He played this game with Yun Haitang every day, so it would be strange if he didn't leave. Moreover, he had not noticed it at all. Yun Haitang was using this method to cultivate her mental energy fire. Lu Ming felt a chill run down his spine. This process only took about a dozen breaths of time. The mental energy fire above their heads had hidden and disappeared. The young man was like a pile of mud, lying limply on the ground. You rest here for a while, I still have something to deal with, Yun Haitang said to the young man. The young man nodded. At this moment, Lu Ming quietly retreated from the stone hall and returned to the stone hall from before. He poured himself a glass of wine and slowly sipped it. Not long after, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Yun Haitang had returned. Brother Lu, sorry to keep you waiting, Yun Haitang said in a sweet voice as she walked over. Lu Ming could not help but shiver at the thought of the scene just now. He was not in the mood to admire it at all. He only said perfunctorily, I didn't wait long, you're pretty fast. He did feel that the old man was quite fast. Yun Haitang smiled faintly and sat down beside Lu Ming. She poured a glass of wine for him and another for herself. Brother Lu, I'll drink a cup as punishment. Then, he picked up his wine cup and drank it all. After putting down the wine glass, Yun Haitang blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming. After a while, she said, Brother Lu, I've invited you here today because I have something to tell you. Oh, what did he say? Lu Ming said with a smile. Yun Haitang's face blushed as she inched closer to Lu Ming and placed her hand on his shoulder. Actually, the first time I saw Brother Lu, I thought you were the man I've been waiting for my whole life. I've been missing you a lot recently. With that, Yun Haitang was about to sit on Lu Ming's lap. Her fragrance assailed his nose. No man would be able to resist the temptation of such a rare beauty like Yun Haitang. If Lu Ming had not seen that scene just now, he might have been tempted. But at this moment, he didn't feel anything at all. He said indifferently, in my opinion, you don't miss me, but my mental energy fire. His calm and indifferent voice made Yun Haitang's movements freeze. Her body, which had almost sat on Lu Ming's lap, froze in the air. There was an ugly smile on her face. She looked at Lu Ming and said in a tender voice, Brother Lu, what are you saying? I don't understand what you're talking about. There's a problem that I have to correct you. I'm younger than you, and you're calling me little sister. It's embarrassing. Lu Ming said very seriously. Hihi, so it's little brother. I thought you were older than me. Yun Haitang's face froze for a moment, then she smiled again. One more thing. After you left, I was bored, so I walked around and happened to see the wonderful scene between you and that young master. Hehe, I wonder what will happen if this scene gets out. Lu Ming chuckled. Yun Haitang's expression changed completely. She became extremely gloomy, and her eyes revealed a cold killing intent. Little brother, it's not good to walk around in other people's territory. You'll have to pay with your life. As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Haitang's fingers were like sharp swords, aimed at Lu Ming's throat. Her hand was originally on Lu Ming's shoulder, and they were too close. Yun Haitang was 100% confident that she could kill Lu Ming with this move. However, the next moment, her 100% confidence turned into zero. This was because Lu Ming's hand had already grabbed her wrist. She did not even know how Lu Ming had managed to grab her wrist. Even with her cultivation at the peak of the 8th level of the martial king realm, she did not feel anything. Kill. In an instant, a short sword appeared in her other hand and she slashed it at Lu Ming's throat. However, at the next moment, her hand was grabbed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming grabbed her wrists and a terrifyingly powerful vital essence surged into Yun Haitang's body. Yun Haitang's body went soft and her vital energy dissipated. She had no strength to resist. Her heart sank. "Who are you? What are you trying to do?" Yun Haitang cried out. Lu Ming's cultivation level was too terrifying. It was far above his. "Nothing much. I just want to take your inscription plate. If I can get rid of evil for the people, I don't mind helping you." Lu Ming smiled faintly. You killed Yun Tsongxing, didn't you?" Yun Haitang asked. "It can be considered so." Lu Ming nodded. "Why you? The Yun family's ancestor won't let you off if you do this." Yun Haitang called out. "Is that so?" Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and murderous intent filled the air. "Miss." At this moment, a few maidservants heard the commotion and rushed in. Lu Ming flicked his fingers and a spear's gleam shot out, piercing through the maidservants' stanchions and crippling their cultivation. He also sealed their ability to speak, preventing them from speaking for the time being. Feeling the cold killing intent from Lu Ming, Yun Haitang was scared. Her face turned pale and she begged, "Lu Ming, brother Lu, I'm begging you, please let me go. I can give you anything you want. Furthermore, I'll serve you well until you're comfortable. I guarantee you'll be satisfied." The implied meaning was self-evident. "I don't need it anymore." Lu Ming smiled faintly. With that, he moved like the wind and pointed at Yun Haitang's dantian. Yun Haitang's breathing current collapsed, and she fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Her eyes were filled with despair. Then, Lu Ming tapped Yun Haitang's glabella a few times. 5 spirit lamps appeared above Yun Haitang's head. The spirit lamps swayed a few times and then collapsed one by one. Yun Haitang's cultivation and Tao of inscription had been completely destroyed. Lu Ming used his essential core to take Yun Haitang's storage ring and held it in his hand. "Lu Ming, kill me if you can, otherwise, I won't let you off." Yun Haitang let out a venomous cry. "You will never be able to pose a threat to me." Lu Ming cast a nonchalant glance at Yun Haitang, his tone full of confidence. Yun Haitang was nothing to him. Furthermore, she was a person who had lost her cultivation and her Tao of inscription. With a flick of his finger, a burst of vital essence flew out and sealed Yun Haitang's acupuncture points, making her unable to speak. Then, Lu Ming left Begonia Courtyard in a flash and went to Xian Yanqing's dormitory. Chapter 635. 635 The Strange Jiyu Huashu. What's wrong? Since you've returned so quickly, why don't you take the opportunity to get closer to a beauty? Xian Yanqing mocked Lu Ming when he saw him. Why would I get close to other women? If I want to get close, I should get close to you. Lu Ming chuckled. Xian Yanqing's face reddened. Don't give me that. Who would want to be close to you? Tell me, did you have lustful thoughts about her and got chased out? Lu Ming was speechless. Was his character that bad? Seeing that Lu Ming did not say anything, Xian Yanqing smiled. Forget it, let's not talk about it anymore. It's more important to get down to business. Lu Ming took out Yun Haitang's storage ring and focused his mind on it. After a while, a token appeared. This is an inscribed token? You're taking action so quickly? Xian Yanqing said. Of course, if you don't do it now, I'm going to sacrifice my body. Let's take action now, Lu Ming mumbled. If we're too late and others find out that Yun Haitang is in trouble, we won't have a chance anymore. All right. Xian Yanqing was not one to hesitate and immediately nodded. Wait a moment. Lu Ming called out. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming in confusion. I'll inscribe an inscription formation for you to conceal your aura first. Lu Ming continued to inscribe runes on Xian Yanqing's body. After a while, the inscription array that concealed his aura was completed. Lu Ming, I didn't expect your inscription technique to be so brilliant. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming curiously. It's nothing. Let's go. In a flash, he went into the depths of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy with Xian Yanqing following behind. At the same time, in a secret room of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, a deep roar like that of a beast was heard. A white-haired old man's heart was pierced through by Jiyu Huashu. You! Who was it? Ancient flower void. Not this strong. The old man's eyes were filled with disbelief. He was a core elder of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution and a peak-tier king. Even if Jiyu Huashu had sneaked an attack on him, he wouldn't have been able to pierce through his heart. The cultivation that Jiyu Huashu had just revealed was extremely terrifying. Hihi, you're about to die, why care so much? I only want your inscription plate. True Yuan exploded, and the old man's aura was extinguished. Jiyu Huashu sneered and licked his lips. He took off the old man's storage ring. After a while, a token appeared in his hand. It was exactly the same as the one that Lu Ming and the others had gotten from Yun Haitang. Then, Jiyu Huashu's body flashed and he also headed towards the treasure vault of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's cultivation levels were high. Their movements were as fast as lightning. Coupled with the inscription array that concealed their aura, no one could discover them. Soon, the two of them arrived at the depths of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. There was a huge mountain. On the mountainside, there was a stone door. The stone door was tightly closed, and there was a large inscription formation engraved on all sides. If they didn't have the token, not to mention whether they could break in, if they tried to force their way in, it would alert the higher-ups of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, including that Sea of Soul Realm expert. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing rushed to the mountainside, took out the inscription token, and injected their vital essence. Buzz! The inscription token glowed and inscriptions appeared on it. Inscriptions also appeared on the stone door. These inscriptions formed a light shield in front of them. At this moment, the light barrier split into two, forming a door. The stone door opened automatically. Let's go. The two of them flashed and rushed in. The light shield closed automatically, and the stone door also closed. Behind the stone door, there was a wide passage. It was obviously man-made, and the surrounding walls were full of holes. The two of them followed the passageway and advanced quickly. The tunnel slanted downward, leading to the underground. The two of them ran forward carefully for a few minutes. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt his hair stand on end and a sense of danger erupted from the bottom of his heart. Be careful. Lu Ming suddenly pulled Xian Yanqing and retreated. Kai Kai. Two sharp beams of qi shot into the place where the two had been, leaving two deep, thumb-sized holes in the ground. Die. A figure pounced at them with dark green claws aimed at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's vital points. The speed was unbelievable. Buzz. A long spear condensed in Lu Ming's hands. The spear's gleam pierced through the void and stabbed forward. Sky Devil Force Field. Xian Yanqing pressed his hand forward and a powerful force field burst out, enveloping the other party. Bang! Lu Ming's spear gleam collided with the other party. Lu Ming's figure swayed slightly, while the other party retreated rapidly. So strong. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Under his and Xian Yanqing's combined attack, the other party was only pushed back and not injured. This showed the other party's combat power. Of course, it was also because the two of them were in a hurry and didn't use their full strength. Jiyu Huashu. At this moment, Lu Ming saw the person in front of him. He was shocked and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Beside him, Xian Yanqing was in the same state. The person who had ambushed them was actually Jiyu Huashu. Half a month ago, Jiyu Huashu was only at Lever 7 Martial King realm. In just half a month, he had improved to such a terrifying level. Hihi, Your battle strength is beyond my expectations. Jiyu Huashu sneered and licked his lips. He stared at Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing coldly. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing furrowed their brows. They did not expect to meet Jiyu Huashu here. You're also here to steal the treasures of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, right? Lu Ming said. Hehe, not bad. I didn't expect you to come in here. Good, I'll take this opportunity to finish you off. Jiyu Huashu's body flickered and turned into a dozen phantoms, charging toward Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing. Each phantom looked real and exuded a powerful aura. Sky Poison Claw. Jiyu Huashu roared as a claw light shot out. More than a dozen figures attacked at the same time, their claws covering Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing's vital points. Sky Devil Force Field. Sky Demon Cut. Xie Nianqing shouted as the Sky Demon force field exploded. It contained a terrifying cutting force. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming's long spear turned into more than 10 spear gleams and pierced through more than 10 phantoms. Bang, bang. After a dozen or so deep explosions, Jiyu Huashu's dozen or so figures all collapsed and turned into one. He quickly retreated 100 meters away, and blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. In the battle between the three of them, all of their true chi was restrained. Otherwise, with their combat strength, if their chi spread in all directions, it would probably penetrate the mountain. I didn't expect that your battle strength would reach such a level. I'm afraid that even the sovereigns at the bottom of the list of top 1,000 talents are no match for either of you, Jiyu Huashu said with a serious expression. Chapter 636. 636 Ling Hai takes action. However, Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing were equally shocked. Jiyu Huashu had reached such a terrifying level in just half a month. His cultivation had already reached the peak-tier king level, and his battle power was extremely strong. If it was a one-on-one battle, Lu Ming did not have the confidence to win. This guy's condition is too strange. Dandan's black eyes stared at Jiyu Huashu, her eyes spinning. Dandan, what did you see? Lu Ming asked. Dandan said that it had lived for a long time. Lu Ming now felt that it might be true. Perhaps Dandan could really see something. It's a little like possession, but the difficulty of possession is not small. It requires a series of coincidences, otherwise it's very difficult to succeed. Dandan muttered. Possession. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing's expressions changed. There was disbelief in their eyes. They had also heard of the legend of possession. It was said that when a martial artist cultivated to the spiritual god realm and condensed a spiritual god, even if his physical body was destroyed, the spiritual god would not collapse for a while. He could even use his spiritual god to possess another body and be reborn. However, possession wasn't as easy as one would imagine. Once a spirit god left the body, it was extremely weak and wouldn't exist for long. The most important thing was that everyone's will was extremely strong, and it even involved the laws of life. Basically, it was impossible for a spirit god to possess someone else's body. If a spirit god wanted to possess someone else's body, they would often end up in a situation where they would be reduced to ashes. But in history, there were also successful cases of possession, but they were too few. Could it be that Jiyu Huashu's body had been possessed by a powerful being? At this moment, Jiyu Huashu's expression changed. I'll let you two off for now, but I'll take your lives in the future. Jiyu Huashu snorted and quickly retreated into the tunnel. Chase. The two of them quickly chased after him. The three of them, one in front and one at the back, moved forward and passed through the east and west bay. After a while, a huge underground cave appeared in front of them. Blood-red gemstones were embedded in the stone walls of the underground cave, scattering blood-red rays of light. In the middle of the underground cave, there was actually a medicinal field, growing more than a dozen kinds of spirit herbs. Ha ha, blood infant fruit, dragon poison fruit, my senses were indeed correct. As soon as Jiyu Huashu arrived here, he revealed a look of ecstasy and charged towards the fruit trees. The heavenly demon fruit. Xie Nianqing immediately saw a fruit tree as tall as a man. It was pitch black and there was only one fruit on it. It was the size of a fist and had strange patterns on its surface. This was the heavenly demon fruit that Xianyanqing needed. Xianyanqing pounced toward the heavenly demon fruit. Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, the air trembled violently. The vibrations were so dense that it was as if there were countless bees flying around. However, the sound of the vibrations was thousands of times stronger than that of the bees. Whoosh! 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 Then, beetles flew out from the ground of these fruit trees like bullets, piercing through Jiyu Huashu and Xianyanqing. His speed was shockingly fast. The vibrations were caused by the flapping of the beetle's wings. Be careful! Lu Ming exclaimed softly and rushed over quickly. Sky Devil Force Field. Xianyanqing pressed his palm down, and the powerful Sky Demon Force Field enveloped the beetles. However, the speed of the beetles was only slightly affected, and they continued to rush toward Xianyanqing. Sky Demon Cut. An extremely sharp cutting power burst out, and a wind blade-like cutting power cut toward the beetles. Buzz! And NBSB. Whoosh! The powerful cutting force cut the beetles, but it produced the sound of metal clashing and sparks flying. Only a few beetles were cut in half, and the rest were only sent flying. After a moment of delay, they charged again. On the other side, a short sword appeared in Jiyu Huashu's hand. He kept on slashing, but the result was the same. Only a few of the beetles were killed, and the rest were sent flying. Sacred beetle! Damn it! Why are there sacred beetles here? Jiyu Huashu roared. And NBSB, buzz! The beetles flew up again, and there were no less than 1,000 of them. Lu Ming rushed forward and a huge spear's gleam condensed in his hand. He swept it out and dozens of scarabs were swept away like bullets. They crashed into the surrounding walls, blasting big holes in them. However, more scarabs pounced toward Lu Ming. And NBSB, this type of sacred beetle had a long, sharp thorn in its mouth. It was clearly not ordinary, and no one wanted to be pierced by it. Little Qing, pick the heavenly demon fruit and retreat. Lu Ming shouted. Juniors, none of you can leave today. All of you can stay. At this time, a bone-chilling voice rang out. Boom! In the sky above the cave, a vast and terrifying aura pressed down. This aura gave people the feeling that they were facing a vast ocean. Not good, it's a sea of Soul Realm expert. Lu Ming's expression changed. It seemed that the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy had already taken precautions and had been waiting for them here. 9 dragons trampling the heavens. Lu Ming did not hesitate at all. He immediately used the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps and turned into a ray of light. In a flash, he dodged the large group of scarabs and rushed toward the Sky Demon fruit. Bang! Bang! Then, he swept his long spear and the group of scarabs in front of him were swept away. He then swept his quintessential essence forward and caught the Sky Demon fruit. He pulled it back and put it into Lu Ming's storage ring. The heavenly demon fruit is in my hands, let's go. Run! Lu Ming shouted as he flew towards the exit at top speed. At the same time, Xianyanqing retreated quickly. Junior, stay here. An angry shout rang out, and 2 powerful forces pressed down on the 2 people's heads at an unbelievable speed. There were 2 rings of fire, and they exuded a shocking pressure. It's so hot. That's the 2nd-level fire concept. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. 3 types of concepts erupted and a spear's gleam shot out, striking the ring of flames. With a loud boom, Lu Ming felt a boundless pressure surging toward him. His body trembled slightly and he could not help but retreat. On the other side, Xianyanqing was in a similar situation. He took a few steps back. In the sky, a burly middle-aged man in a red robe stood in the air. His eyes were cold as lightning as he scanned the 3 of them. Did you kill my son, Yun Tsongxing? Today, I'm going to bury all of you with me. The red-robed man's cold voice rang out. As soon as he finished speaking, he pressed his hands down and a total of 9 rings of fire shot towards Lu Ming, Xianyanqing, and Jiyu Huashu. And NBSB, at the same time, the sacred beetle began to shake and fly toward the 3 of them. Sky Devil Force Field. Destruction cut. Xianyanqing shouted as he pushed out his palms. A powerful force field covered a radius of 10 meters. Invisible cutting forces destroyed everything. And NBSB, this time, many of the sacred beetles were cut in half, leaving only 3 flame rings to charge through the force field. This is the destruction domain. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Xian Yanqing had actually comprehended the intent realm of destruction. At the same time, he had cultivated the intent realm of wind. Chapter 637. 637 Chapter 637 Joining Hands. The destruction mentality was a special kind of mentality. Its attack power was extremely terrifying. It could destroy everything. In terms of attack power, even the thunder mentality was a lot weaker. At the same time, Xian Yanqing had also comprehended the wind mentality. However, the two mentalities were obviously not combined. Exterminate. At this moment, a long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hands. He had not used the infinite dragon spear since he got it. Whoosh, whoosh. The infinite dragon spear turned into a series of shadows. Dozens of spear lights burst out. As the spear lights were too sharp, they tore through the air and created dozens of vacuum passages. And NBSB, the spear radiance struck dozens of sacred beetles, causing them to explode. The tip of the infinite dragon spear was made of indestructible steel. It was extremely hard and sharp, and it could easily break through the sacred beetle's defense. On the other side, Jiyu Huashu let out a long howl and his dark green sword qi exploded. It was also stronger than before and split apart the sacred beetles. Boom! Boom! Then, there was a violent explosion. Lu Ming and the rest collided with the ring of flames, creating a shocking explosion. The entire mountain shook violently. Damn it! The red-robed middle-aged man's eyes were filled with shock. Lu Ming's group of 3 was too powerful. Not only could they break through the sacred beetle, but they could also block his attack. They were only martial kings, but they were so terrifying. Raging flames billow to the heavens. Slash the world. The red-robed man waved his hands and pressed down. Immediately, dozens of rings of fire formed and shot toward the 3 of them. This kind of fiery disk was the combination of the red-robed man's vital essence and will. It was extremely powerful, and the edge of the ring was extremely sharp. It also carried the explosive intent of fire. If someone was hit by it, they would definitely explode. Lu Ming, how about the 3 of us join forces? Jiyu Huashu suddenly shouted. His opponent was a Sea of Soul Realm expert. No matter if it was Jin Yuan or intent, they were both too strong. They couldn't be his opponent alone. If they wanted to leave this place safely, they had to work together. Otherwise, they would only be defeated one by one. All right. Lu Ming was also very clear about this. He nodded and agreed without hesitation. Regardless of whether Jiyu Huashu was possessed or not, he had to get through this first. Jiyu Huashu's body flashed and he appeared beside Lu Ming and the rest like a ghost. In the spiritual ocean tier, the Dantian turns into the sea, and the Jin Yuan is too rich. We can't fight him head-on, or our Jin Yuan will definitely be exhausted in advance. The other party is a martial artist at the peak of the first level of the spiritual ocean tier, so we can only change from passive to active and counterattack to have a chance of winning, Jiyu Huashu analyzed. What method do you have? Lu Ming asked. It was very likely that Jiyu Huashu had been possessed by a spirit god. He might really have a way. The few of them blocked the red-robed man's attacks while conversing through voice transmission. The 2 of us will open up a path and attack the other party. Let this little girl use her force field to cover the other party and reduce his speed. Only then will we have a chance of winning, Jiyu Huashu said. All right, let's lead the way. Lu Ming nodded. Then, he activated his second blood meridian and his power increased. An extreme strike. Lu Ming unleashed his strongest attack. He became one with the spear and turned into a ray of spear radiance. It pierced through the void and rushed up into the sky. Bang! Bang! A few rings were destroyed by Lu Ming and the sharp spear's gleam was pointed at the burly man in red robes. Sky Poison Sword. A dark green light flashed in Jiyu Huashu's eyes. Even the short sword in his hand turned dark green. With a slash, a few rings were broken and the dark green sword light slashed towards the red-robed man. The red-robed man's eyes turned serious. He clenched his fists in the air and the rings of flames flew back. They turned into 2 rings that emitted a powerful aura and shot toward Lu Ming's spear radiance and dark green sword chi. Boom! Boom! 2 earth-shaking explosions were heard as violent chi spread out. 2 pillars of chi shot up into the sky from where the 3 were fighting. Boom! The stone wall above the cave was directly penetrated, and the whole mountain shook violently. Countless boulders came crashing down, but when they were still several dozen meters from the 4, they were shattered by the energy from their bodies. Charge out! Lu Ming called out to Xian Yanqing. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing turned into 2 streaks of light and rushed up. On the other side, Jiyu Huashu did the same. If you want to leave, then stay. The red-robed man let out an earth-shattering roar and turned into a sea of fire, blasting towards the 3 of them. Sky Devil Force Field. Xian Yanqing pressed his little hand and the Sky Demon Force Field acted on the red-robed man, blocking his figure for a moment. In this way, Lu Ming and the other 2 rushed out of the mountain peak. Stay here. The burly man in red robe bellowed. The next moment, the Sky Demon Force Field was shattered. He turned into a flame and broke through the sky in an instant. With a wave of his hand, dozens of rings of flame were blasted toward Lu Ming and the other 2. Lu Ming and the other 2 retaliated. With a loud bang, the sky exploded like fireworks. As for the mountain peak below, it had completely collapsed. Detestable! Jiyu Huashu roared. The spirit herbs he wanted were still inside. What's going on? Something has happened in the forbidden area. Such a huge commotion naturally alarmed the entire Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. Countless people were flying around in the sky. Buzz. And NBSB, whoosh. More than 20 figures were flying toward Lu Ming and the rest. Forefather, what happened? Forefather, what's going on? These people asked one after another. These people have trespassed the forbidden area. All of you, attack and take them down, the red-robed man ordered. What? How dare you? You're looking for death. The 20-odd people shouted one after another. Their powerful auras exploded and surrounded Lu Ming and the other 2. Every one of them was a late-stage king, and they were the strongest force in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. Kill them. The red-robed man instructed. Kill. Kill. Over 20 late-stage king tiers attacked together. All sorts of techniques and lights were unleashed toward the 3 of them. Brat, die. As for the red-robed man, he waved his hand and everyone's attacks were directed towards Jiyu Huashu. He wanted to break them one by one. Just now, his attacks were too scattered. That was why Lu Ming and the rest managed to block them. Now, he was going to focus on one person. Jiyu Huashu was shocked, and he quickly retreated as a dark green sword chi burst out. Die. The red-robed man pressed down with his hand and a ring of fire spun rapidly, colliding with the sword chi. The sword chi only resisted for a breath before it collapsed. The ring did not stop and continued forward. Clang. Jiyu Huashu's body trembled as his short sword struck the ring, and he quickly retreated. No, I'm not his match alone. We have to work together. Jiyu Huashu charged at Lu Ming without a care. But the red-robed man stopped him. Chapter 638. 638 Wanting to slaughter the Spirit Sea. On the other side, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were also entangled. Alchemists were skilled in inscriptions, so they were naturally also skilled in joint attacks. More than 20 upper-tier king tiers joined forces and set up a combined attack formation, entangling Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming was very clear about the other party's intention. They would hold the 2 of them back first. The burly man in the red robe would kill Jiyu Huashu first and then kill them. They were broken one by one. If that was the case, they would be in danger. That red-robed man wasn't an ordinary person who had just broken through to the spiritual ocean tier, but had already reached the peak of the first level of the spiritual ocean tier. If they fought him alone, they would only be defeated. Charge out and join forces with Jiyu Huashu. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Xian Yanqing. Sky Demon Force Field, Destruction Cut. Xian Yanqing pressed his hands together, and the Sky Demon Force Field surrounded the 20 or so masters. The destructive power of the force field cut them up. If there were only a few late-stage king tiers, they would have definitely been minced into meat paste. However, with the combined forces of over 20 king tiers, their auras merged together, and their formation, they were actually able to withstand the attack. Devour. Lu Ming pressed his left palm down and a powerful devouring force erupted. It acted on the 20-odd phenomenal success kings and was about to devour their blood essence. Steady. One of the elders shouted. This elder had the strength of a peak-tier king. In fact, there were 8 peak-tier kings among the 20-odd people. Otherwise, they would not have been able to stop Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's joint attack. True Dragon Strike. Break. Lu Ming thrust his long spear and a 3-colored true dragon flew out, crashing toward the 20-odd people. Block him, block him. In just a little while, the patriarch will be able to kill that person and come help us. An old man roared. They were also extremely shocked. Where did these young men come from? They were so strong that they did not seem to be martial king realm warriors. They were too terrifying. At this moment, countless people from all over the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy were looking at the battle in the sky in shock. Whoosh! Just as Lu Ming executed the true dragon strike, a beam of sword light suddenly flashed from a mountain peak below. The sword light was extremely sharp, as if it had come from beyond the heavens. The target of the sword gleam was the same as Lu Ming. It was the experts from the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Boom! The 3-colored true dragon first clashed with the attacks of the people from the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. They had never expected that there would be another sword light. He wanted to defend, but he lacked the strength. The sword light slashed across, and 7 or 8 late-stage kings were cut in half. The formation was broken. As soon as the formation was broken, Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon force field exploded and blood splattered everywhere. A few more masters were killed. Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy is such a dirty and disgusting place. Today, I will destroy it. A figure stepped into the air and appeared in the sky. It was a young man, about 25 or 26 years old. He was wearing a white robe and was handsome and elegant. Come and help me. On the other side, Jiyu Huashu shouted. He couldn't hold on any longer. He was spitting out blood and couldn't hold on much longer. The two of you, I'll leave the rest to you. I'll go help him. The white-robed young man turned into a sword light and attacked the red-robed man. Yun Luo, you old fogey, today is the day you die. The white-robed youth's voice was filled with killing intent. Damn it, who are you? The red-robed man, Yun Luo, roared. Ditien Divine Guard, Li Xiaoyun, I've been investigating what your Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy has done for a long time. You must be destroyed. The white-robed young man shouted coldly as endless sword chi burst out from his hand. It was extremely powerful. The white-robed youth's cultivation was also at the peak-tier king tier, but his battle power wasn't any weaker than Jiyu Huashu, Xian Yanqing, and the others. Li Xiaoyun. His ranked 943rd on the list of top 1000 talent. Lu Ming's expression changed. Charge. Let's break out together. At that moment, an old man who was trapped in the Sky Demon power field was trying to break out of the encirclement. With the formation broken, their strength was greatly reduced. At this time, Xian Yanqing had killed a few of them. The remaining 10 or so people were struggling in the Sky Demon power field, but they couldn't get out at all. Now, I'll send you on your way. Lu Ming thrust his spear forward and hundreds of 3-colored true dragons flew out, pouncing on the experts from the Cloud Sea Alchemy Division. At the same time, the devouring power of the 9 dragons bloodline enveloped the other party through his left palm. This was equivalent to Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing working together. How could ordinary peak-tier kings withstand this? They were instantly killed. Swallow. Drops of blood essence flew into Lu Ming's left palm and were devoured by the 9 dragons bloodline. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming curiously. He did not know what Lu Ming's purpose of devouring blood essence was. Now, let's go kill that old man. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not explain. He couldn't explain the bloodline of the 9 dragons yet. As for the 20 or so storage rings, Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing kept them all. All right. Xie Nianqing nodded. Meanwhile, the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy was in an uproar. The most powerful elders of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution were all dead. They had all been killed. Those who knew Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing were even more shocked. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing's names aren't on the list of top 1,000 talents. How are they so strong? Peak-tier kings can't even fight back against them. The most terrifying one is Jiyu Huashu. He's also shockingly strong. He's still alive under the attack of the old ancestor. The Great Era is coming. I heard that in recent years, geniuses have emerged from all over the Eastern Barren Territory. All kinds of supreme talents have emerged like bamboo shoots after the rain, and many of them are no weaker than the geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents. It's over. The Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution has been targeted by these monsters. It's most likely over. We'd better leave quickly. Some of the people who were studying alchemy here all retreated far away to avoid being implicated. Some disciples of the Cloud Sea Elixir Dispensary also retreated to some hidden places to watch. If the situation didn't look right, they would leave immediately. Meanwhile, Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing were already charging towards Yun Luo. Even with Jiyu Huashu and Li Xiaoyun working together, they were still not Yun Luo's match, but they could barely hold her off. Sky Devil Force Field. Before Xie Nianqing even arrived, the Sky Demon force field had already enveloped Yun Luo. True Dragon Strike. The dazzling spear radiance turned into a 3-colored True Dragon and pounced toward Yun Luo. At the same time, Jiyu Huashu and Li Xiaoyun also launched their counterattacks. Boom! Boom! Yun Luo's body trembled violently as she retreated. Buzz! Buzz! Li Xiaoyun and Jiyu Huashu moved and blocked his way. The 4 of them surrounded Yun Luo. Hee, you're arrogant. Let's see how arrogant you can be now. Jiyu Huashu sneered. Yun Luo, I've investigated what your Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution has done. From today on, the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution will be removed from the world. Li Xiaoyun's sword qi soared into the sky, and his voice was extremely cold. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing did not say a word, but their cold gazes explained everything. Countless people were shocked. The 4 geniuses were going to kill a powerful being from the Spirit Sea today. Furthermore, Yun Luo was a powerful being at the peak of the first level of the spiritual ocean realm. If she was killed, it would definitely be a big piece of news. It was extremely rare for a king to kill the Spirit Ocean. This was because the difference between a king and the Spirit Ocean was too great. Even if the 4 of them joined forces, it would still be extremely shocking. Chapter 639. 639 List of Top 1000 Talents, Li Xiaoyun. You think you can kill me? Yun Luo's aura was as turbulent as the ocean as she scanned her surroundings. But his heart was unusually heavy. The 4 people in front of him were all too powerful. Normal peak-tier kings would be instantly killed by them. If he was alone, he had the confidence to defeat and kill him. But with the 4 of them working together, he felt great pressure. Especially, he looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming was only at the peak of the 9th level of the martial king realm, but he was already so powerful. This made him tremble in fear. The battle of karmic luck is about to begin. All these freaks have been mobilized. Yun Luo felt a little bitter. Hehe, while it's rare for a king to kill a Spirit Sea expert, there have been a few in history. Jiyu Huashu sneered and licked his lips. Kill. Lu Ming did not waste any words and attacked directly. He had devoured a large amount of blood essence, so he had to end the battle as soon as possible and refine the blood essence. The moment Lu Ming moved, the other 3 moved as well. Each of them unleashed their unique skills and charged towards Yun Luo. The sky instantly boiled over. The violent attacks caused the entire world to shake. Wisps of energy seeped out and fell to the ground. Boom. Boom. Each wisp of chi was like a bombshell. Mountains and rivers exploded, and palaces collapsed. The Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy was in shambles. Let's go, let's go. The disciples of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution screamed and ran. Some of them were too slow and were killed by the explosion. The 5 figures turned into 5 dazzling lights and engaged in a life-and-death battle in the sky. But at this time, Yun Luo was already completely at a disadvantage. A moment later, blood splattered in all directions as an arm was cut off. Yun Luo let out a beast-like roar, and suddenly, a blood-red light filled the air. Yun Luo turned into a blood-red light, rushed out of the encirclement, and quickly went far away. For little bastards, just you wait. I will definitely take revenge for my broken arm. His voice rumbled and reverberated between heaven and earth, but he had already gone far away. Yun Luo had escaped. What a pity, he escaped. Li Xiaoyun sighed. Lu Ming's expression was calm. The 4 of them did not have an overwhelming advantage over Yun Luo to begin with. It would not be that easy to kill her. It was already good enough that they were able to leave her with an arm and severely injure her vitality. Hihi, if the other party doesn't die, he'll definitely take revenge. I won't be accompanying you, Jiyu Huashu sneered. He looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing before his figure flashed and disappeared into the horizon. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This guy was cautious. He left immediately after the battle was over. He was most likely afraid that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing would find trouble with him. To be honest, Lu Ming would not mind getting rid of him if he had the chance. Jiyu Huashu gave Lu Ming a very dangerous feeling. May I know how I should address the 2 of you? Li Xiaoyun cupped his fists at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and smiled. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing answered. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing. I've never heard of it before. It seems that we've really entered a golden era with countless geniuses. If the list of top 1,000 talents is rearranged, I doubt I'll be squeezed out of it, Li Xiaoyun said with a bitter smile. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing looked like they were in their 20s, but they had such cultivation and combat strength. He was shocked. Brother Li is too modest. I've heard of Brother Li's great name like thunder. Lu Ming was being polite. What are your plans next? Did you come here to go to the chaotic astral ocean as well? Li Xiaoyun asked curiously. Not bad. Lu Ming nodded. He had nothing to hide. The Battle of Kismet is approaching. Now, many geniuses have been mobilized. As far as I know, many geniuses have entered the chaotic astral ocean recently to train Themslevers. After I've settled the affairs of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, I'm also planning to go to the chaotic astral ocean to adventure, Li Xiaoyun said with a smile. Oh. Lu Ming nodded. Indeed, the chaotic astral ocean is incomparably chaotic. It's an unreasonable place where people may attack you at any time. There's no lack of life and death battles there. Under such an environment, it was indeed possible for one to constantly improve and break through. Because if he didn't break through, he would most likely die. It was normal for many geniuses to enter it to train. Lu Ming could not help but look forward to it. Li Xiaoyun was ranked 943rd on the list of top 1,000 talents, which was dozens of places higher than the Saint Planet. His battle strength was much stronger than the Saint Planet's. Li Xiaoyun could easily defeat Saint Starlight. He was only a few dozen ranks higher and he was already so powerful. How powerful would those geniuses who were ranked higher be? Not to mention the geniuses who had reached the Sea of Souls realm, there must be many geniuses who were stronger than Li Xiaoyun in the Martial King realm. Lu Ming really wanted to meet them. Brother Li, we'll take our leave then, Lu Ming said. He was in a hurry to find a place to refine the blood essence. All right, when we meet again, we must have a good drink, Li Xiaoyun said with a smile. Definitely. Lu Ming nodded and left with Xian Yanqing. Buzz. Buzz. After Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing left, 2 figures appeared beside Li Xiaoyun and bowed. Young master, send the news to the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace in the Yunfeng region and get someone to deal with this Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Using the carnate blood qi to refine pills is an evil and crooked way, Li Xiaoyun said coldly. Yes. The 2 old men bowed. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing flew to the west. After flying for hundreds of thousands of miles, they landed in a mountain range. The two of them planned to cultivate in seclusion here for a while. Xie Nianqing wanted to use the heavenly demon fruit to cultivate the heavenly demon force field, while Lu Ming wanted to refine his blood essence. "Dandan, help us guard the area," Lu Ming said. 10 level 5 spiritual herbs. Dandan demanded an exorbitant price. 2, or not a single one. Lu Ming threw him 2. Dandan was helpless and could only grab 2 spiritual herbs to guard at the side. Xie Nianqing sat cross-legged, took out the heavenly demon fruit, and began to cultivate. Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged 100 meters away. Boom, boom, boom. In the bloodline of the 9 dragons, a huge amount of blood essence was being refined. This time, he had obtained the blood essence of over 20 late king tiers, including 8 peak tier king tiers. The blood essence was simply too rich. The 9 dragon bloodline had already accumulated to a certain level, reaching the limit of a 7th level king bloodline. This time, it broke through directly. 8 Silivara chakras flashed and disappeared. The 9 dragon bloodline had advanced to the 8th level king realm. Fortunately, Xie Nianqing was also in seclusion, otherwise, his jaw would have dropped. Bloodline of the 9 dragons, why does it sound so familiar? Sigh, I can't remember. Not far away, Dandan was mumbling while gnawing on spirit herbs. Let's see if I have enough supreme grade spirit crystals. If I have enough, I can break through to the peak tier king realm. More than 10 storage rings appeared in Lu Ming's hands. Lu Minute and Xie Nianqing each took Tuilavir storage rings from the 20 over kings from the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Lu Ming's mind sank into it and he gathered all the top-grade spiritual crystals together. After a while, Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. Chapter 640. 640 Breaking Through to Peak Tier King Tier. As expected of the storage ring of a peak late-stage king, it was simply too rich. There were more than 80 million supreme spiritual crystals in the 12 storage rings. 80 million was really terrifying. Alchemy is really a huge profit. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. Moreover, the people in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution made use of the brutal method of the baby's innate blood qi to refine pills and make a profit. Naturally, they earned more supreme-grade spirit crystals. Normal peak-tier kings and late-stage kings weren't this rich. Lu Ming estimated that Yun Luo's storage ring definitely had more top-grade spiritual crystals. It was a pity that he had escaped. It's more than enough to break through to the peak-tier king level. Lu Ming looked at Xie Nianqing after he was done sorting out the best-grade spirit crystals. At this moment, an invisible force field emanated from Xie Nianqing's body, covering a radius of 100 meters. It trembled continuously and shrank. Xie Nianqing held the heavenly demon fruit in his hand. The fruit glowed and wisps of light were absorbed by Xie Nianqing. It seemed that Xie Nianqing's cultivation would not end anytime soon. With a single thought, Lu Ming's body disappeared and he entered the Supreme Shrine. The next breakthrough would cause a huge commotion. If they were outside, Xie Nianqing would most likely be alerted. Let's start. With a wave of his hand, a large pile of top-grade spiritual crystals appeared. There were a total of 1 million pieces. Bang! Bang! All 1 million supreme spiritual crystals exploded and turned into extremely rich spiritual qi. The 9-dragon bloodline emerged. After reaching the 8th level of the king level, the 9-dragon bloodline's body seemed to have become larger. Its body was winding, and its scales were dense. It was becoming more and more like the legendary true dragon. He opened his mouth and inhaled. A terrifying devouring power burst forth. The energy of 1 million pieces of top-grade spirit crystals was swarmed into the 9 dragons' bloodline. Lu Ming circulated the true war dragon technique and began cultivating. Breaking through to peak-tier king tier required an abnormally large amount of energy, and he had to condense his qi vortex to the extreme in preparation for breaking through to the spirit sea realm. Therefore, he needed a lot of supreme spiritual crystals. The devouring and refining power of the 9 dragons' bloodline had increased several times. It did not take long for him to refine 1 million pieces of top-grade spirit crystals. Lu Ming took out another 1 million. Just like that, 1 million followed another. Endless energy was being accumulated. After Lu Ming had refined 18 million pieces of top-grade spirit crystals, the qi cyclone in his dantian finally reached an extremely condensed stage. It was like a liquid that was spinning, like the eye of the sea. At this moment, a powerful aura rose from Lu Ming's body. He had broken through to a peak-tier king. Boom, boom, boom. Circulating the true war dragon technique, his essential core surged and flowed. Lu Ming felt that the strength of his essential core was several times stronger than before. Naturally, Lu Ming's combat strength had also increased by a large margin. Lu Ming opened his eyes and revealed a satisfied smile. Peak-tier kings were considered to be standing at the peak of king tiers. The next step would be to open the Spirit Sea and step into the Spirit Sea realm. However, this step wasn't that easy. First of all, one had to comprehend the intent realm of heaven and earth to the second level. Without the second level intent realm of heaven and earth, trying to break through to the Sea of Soul realm would only lead to death. It has only been a day since I refined so many top-grade spirit crystals. Let's go and see how little Qing's cultivation is going. With a single thought, Lu Ming left the Supreme Shrine. Buzz. And NBSB, whoosh. As soon as Lu Ming appeared, he felt a powerful force field surging and his body was under immense pressure. Lu Ming moved and retreated a few hundred meters before the pressure disappeared. The demonic fruit in Xian Yanqing's hand had disappeared. Her long hair was flying in the air, and a lotus flower was floating above her head. A beautiful woman was sitting cross-legged on the lotus flower. A powerful force field emanated from Xian Yanqing's body. It's not simple, it's not simple. Dandan circled around Xian Yanqing, her eyes darting around as she carefully sized up Xian Yanqing. 8 hours later, the force field around him suddenly shrunk and disappeared into Xian Yanqing's body. At this time, Xian Yanqing opened his eyes. Little Qing, how is it? Did you break through the sky demon power field? Lu Ming walked over and smiled. Of course I did. How was it? You want to test its power? Xian Yanqing's lips curved into a sly smile. He stared at Lu Ming with ill intentions. You think you can defeat me just because you've broken through? Then you'll be disappointed again. Lu Ming smiled confidently. Oh, really? Then I'll have to try. Xian Yanqing smiled. As soon as she finished speaking, she pressed her palms forward. Buzz. An extremely powerful force field burst forth and enveloped Lu Ming in an instant. It was as if a majestic mountain was pressing down on him. So strong. His several times stronger than before. Lu Ming's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. Boom. In the next moment, a powerful aura burst out from Lu Ming's body. He circulated his essential core and gathered 3 types of heaven and earth intent realms, opening up the power of the demonic power field. You've made a breakthrough in your cultivation? Xian Yanqing exclaimed in surprise. Of course. You've already broken through, so how can I not? Lu Ming chuckled. Just in time, destruction cut. Cut. Xian Yanqing shouted and pressed his palms together. A terrifying cutting force burst out from the sky demon power field. This cutting force was formed by the will of destruction and the sky demon power field. It was so sharp that even a 5th-level spiritual weapon would be cut apart. In Lu Ming's hands, a long spear was condensed from vital essence. With the tip of the spear as the center, the long spear spun rapidly like a drill bit and drilled in Xian Yanqing's direction. Bang! Bang! With a loud boom, the domain in front of him was broken. Lu Ming stepped forward and dodged Xian Yanqing's attack. If he wanted to defeat Xian Yanqing, the first thing he had to do was to rush out of the domain and attack Xian Yanqing. Little Qing, I'm going to reward you after I take you down. Lu Ming's gaze swept across Xian Yanqing's body. You want to take me down? Dream on. Xian Yanqing shouted as her blood meridian burst out. Her delicate hand pressed down again. A beautiful arm formed out of thin air and slapped at Lu Ming. The terrifying palm force swept toward Lu Ming like a stormy sea. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He did not dare to be careless. He thrust his spear forward and a huge three-colored true dragon pounced out, colliding with the beautiful palm. Boom! The ground trembled terrifyingly, and the terrain rose and fell. Violent energy swept in all directions. Lu Ming's body trembled slightly and he took 3 steps back. Xian Yanqing also took 3 steps back. They were equally matched. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Just as he was about to activate his blood meridian to fight Xian Yanqing retracted his demonic force field and said, "No more fighting, no more fighting, today is considered a draw." "You're not fighting?" Lu Ming was somewhat speechless. Other things aside, Xian Yanqing was a good opponent. Lu Ming was about to activate his blood meridian and fight with all his might, but Xian Yanqing stopped. "Mitch, you're a man, yet you're fighting with a little girl. And you're so serious. How petty. Who wants to fight with you?" Xian Yanqing's lips curled into a smile as he looked at Lu Ming in disdain. Chapter 641. 641 Chapter 641 Chaotic Stars City. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. All right, Xian Yanqing was the one who said that they wanted to have a competition. In the end, it was Lu Ming who was in the wrong. What could Lu Ming say? He could only tell himself in his heart that he should never try to reason with a woman, because his reasoning might not be her reasoning. With a smile, Xian Yanqing's figure flashed. He grabbed Dandan and placed her on her shoulder. Then, he rose into the air and flew to the west. Lu Ming stepped on the air and chased after him. The distance from here to the chaotic astral ocean was not close. It was almost as far as half of the Yunfeng region. Even with their speed, it would still take them nearly 10 days to fly. "Little Qing, you're cultivating the destruction and wind concepts, right?" Lu Ming asked on the way. "That's right. The intent of destruction is something I comprehended from my bloodline," Xian Yanqing said. "Those 2 concepts don't seem to have fused together. Do you think it's that easy to merge 2 intents together?" Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at Lu Ming. Then, he thought of something and said, "Unlike you, you're so perverted. I can teach you some experience in the fusion of wills. How about it? Do you want to learn?" Lu Ming said with a smile. Xian Yanqing's eyes brightened. Indeed, Lu Ming had successfully fused 3 concepts. If she had Lu Ming's experience, she might really be able to fuse 2 concepts together. If she could really merge the destruction and wind concepts, her sky demon power field would be raised to a terrifying level. "You're not that kind to teach me?" Xian Yanqing asked. "Of course I'm not that kind. I have conditions. Come, give me a kiss, and I'll tell you the method of fusion," Lu Ming said with a smile. "Kiss you?" Xian Yanqing's face was as red as a ripe apple. He glared at Lu Ming and said, "I knew it, you pervert, you wish." After saying that, he even gritted his teeth. "If that's the case, then forget it. I can't do anything about it. Who asked me to be a pervert?" Lu Ming heaved a long sigh. "You." Xian Yanqing gritted her teeth. The look in her eyes kept changing. Then, she stared at Lu Ming with her eyes wide open. Her face turned redder and redder. In the end, she actually closed her eyes slowly and raised her mouth to kiss Lu Ming on the face. Lu Ming's figure flashed and he retreated a few meters away. He smiled and said, "Little Qing, what are you doing? It was just a joke, did you really take it seriously? Ha ha ha." "Lu Ming." A shrill scream came from Xian Yanqing's mouth. Xian Yanqing blushed and glared at Lu Ming. He gritted his teeth and wanted to bite Lu Ming. In the end, she bared her teeth and pounced on Lu Ming, ready to bite him. Lu Ming dodged it and flew forward, shouting, "Nest, the tigress bit me. Stop." "No. I won't stop." The 2 of them, one chasing and one escaping, disappeared into the horizon. Time passed day by day. Along the way, Lu Ming would occasionally tease Xian Yanqing. He was in an extremely good mood. Of course, he wasn't going to be stingy. He shared some of his experience with Xian Yanqing. On top of that, he also gave Xian Yanqing a bunch of destruction intent crystals. The destruction ultimacy crystal was one of the many ultimacy crystals that Lu Ming had obtained in the heaven realm. When Xian Yanqing saw Lu Ming take out a large pile of destruction ultimacy crystals, there were even quite a few middle-grade ultimacy crystals. He could not help but be dumbfounded. Of course, she kept it without any hesitation. Then, she took out a martial arts secret manual and passed it to Lu Ming. The exploding star fist, a superior heaven-level martial arts technique, could burst out a terrifying power when combined with the concept of fire, like the explosion of stars. Lu Ming was overjoyed. His current attack methods were indeed a little monotonous. With this book on the exploding star fist, he would have more attack methods. He had obtained some martial arts secret manuals from others before. However, they were either heaven-level low-rank martial arts manuals which Lu Ming did not care about at all. Most of them had to be cultivated together with the weapon and were not suitable for Lu Ming. Lu Ming was just the right person for this martial arts technique. The two of them were not in a hurry to travel. They cultivated as they traveled. If he had any comprehension, he would stop and cultivate. Lu Ming's understanding of the exploding star fist was also improving rapidly. What was originally a 10-day journey took the two of them more than 20 days to arrive. The chaotic stars city was located on the shore of the chaotic astral ocean. It could be considered the common border between the Yunfeng area and the chaotic astral ocean. The chaotic stars city could be said to be the most prosperous city in the Cloud Peak region. Everyone who wants to enter the chaotic astral ocean from the direction of the Cloud Peak area has to go through the chaotic star city. There were countless merchant associations and caravans gathered here. The chaotic astral ocean can be said to be the largest inland ocean in the East continent. Its surface area is even larger than many large domains. There are many precious materials and strange treasures inside that cannot be found in the outside world. Therefore, there are countless chambers of commerce that take the risk to enter the chaotic astral ocean, search for the materials and treasures unique to the chaotic astral ocean, and sell them in other big regions. They can obtain rich profits. And these chambers of commerce all had to set off from chaotic stars city. It's really lively. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing walked to the streets of the chaotic stars city. They could not help but sigh as they looked at the people coming and going on the streets. There were shops on both sides of the street. There were all kinds of wonderful materials and items from the sea. Lu Ming had never seen them before and it was an eye-opener for him. After walking around for a while, the two of them headed towards the harbor outside the city. The so-called port in chaotic stars city was not a place for ships to dock, but a place for flying demonic beasts to dock. This is because there are a lot of aquatic demonic beasts living in the chaotic astral ocean. These aquatic demonic beasts possess unparalleled strength in the ocean. They are capable of summoning clouds and rain and are incomparably powerful. If a ship sailed on the sea, it would definitely be destroyed by the sea demon beasts. Therefore, the majority of the people who enter the chaotic astral ocean ride on flying demonic beasts. Of course, riding on a flying demonic beast is not completely without danger. In the chaotic astral ocean, the weather is constantly changing, so you might encounter a storm or a thunderstorm at any time. The storm and lightning rain were not ordinary ones. Some of them were so terrifying that even kings would die inside. In addition, the greatest danger in the chaotic astral ocean is pirates. Pirates are everywhere and rob passers-by. The only outcome for those who were robbed was death. Therefore, any martial artist who wants to enter the chaotic astral ocean will enter in groups. The most common way is to follow some caravans. The caravans had powerful forces and would hire some guards with high cultivation. Therefore, as long as he gave them some spirit crystals, they would agree to go with him. The benefits were mutual. One side could get the protection of the caravan's military force, while the other side would have more people in the caravan, which would be more powerful. They were using each other. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing also wanted to find a caravan to go with them. It's not that they're afraid of the pirates of the chaotic astral ocean, but because the ocean is too big. If they don't have someone to lead the way, it's very easy for them to get lost. They planned to first follow the caravan into the chaotic astral ocean. Then, they would train while waiting for other people with the key to the Martial Emperor's treasure to appear. Chapter 642. 642 Demonic Beasts in the Sea. The chaotic Stars City's port was bustling with activity, and many massive flying demonic beasts were parked there. There were chaotic wind eagles, gale eagles, four-winged flying tigers, and many more. There were all kinds of flying demonic beasts. These demonic beasts all had one thing in common, which was that they had extremely good endurance and huge bodies. Each demonic beast could carry at least a few dozen people. These demonic beasts did not all stand together. Instead, they were clearly divided into different forces. The Luyuan Chamber of Commerce is going to Fengyuan Island. Each person only needs 10,000 high-quality spiritual crystals. The Flame Chamber of Commerce is going to the Golden Sand Island. Let's go together. 12,000 supreme spiritual crystals per person. The huge Wave Chamber of Commerce has called for guards to go to Sea Lion Island. The price will be set according to the cultivation. Let's discuss it face to face. When the two of them arrived at the port, they heard shouts. Which island are we going to first? Xian Yanqing asked. I can do anything. Let's choose a bigger island. Lu Ming said. The map displayed on the keys of the Martial Emperor's treasure only points to the chaotic astral ocean, but it doesn't point to its specific location. The two of them speculate that it will only point to its specific location when all 9 keys are born. Therefore, they don't have a specific target now, so they can only choose a random place. Then let's go to Golden Sand Island. Golden Sand Island is a big island with many warriors gathered there. Xian Yanqing said. All right. Lu Ming nodded and the two of them walked in the direction of the Flame Chamber of Commerce. You too, are you going to Golden Sand Island? A middle-aged man with a goatee asked with a smile. Not bad. Lu Ming nodded. To Golden Sand Island, 12,000 best-grade spiritual crystals per person. Our young lady is there, so you can register and pay the fee there. The goateed middle-aged man pointed. The two of them looked over and saw a young woman, surrounded by a group of people, standing under a huge four-winged flying tiger. All right, thank you. Lu Ming cupped his fists and walked over with Xian Yanqing. Are you two going to Golden Sand Island? The lady looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing with a faint smile. The woman was in her 20s. She was wearing a light yellow long dress, which made her look pretty and lovely. This was the young lady that the man with the goatee had mentioned. Yes, this is the fee for the two of us. Lu Ming took out 24,000 pieces of top-grade spiritual crystals and handed them to the young lady. The woman kept it and smiled. My name is Luo Xin. How should I address the two of you? Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing also reported their names. Young Master Lu, Lady Xie, the journey to Golden Sand Island will take half a month. You can choose a four-winged flying tiger first. We will set off in 2 hours. Luo Xin said with a smile. All right. Lu Ming nodded. Then, he and Xian Yanqing chose a four-winged flying tiger. The four-winged flying tiger was 20 meters tall and had a wide back. It lay there, and a few people were already sitting cross-legged on its back. The two of them landed on the four-winged flying tiger's back and sat cross-legged, waiting quietly. As soon as Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing left, a young man with a cold expression beside Luo Xin said, 2 more useless people. This time, there are no experts on the way to Golden Sand Island. What bad luck. Chen Zhao, this is very normal. It's not every time that there are powerhouses setting off together. As a caravan, we have to rely more on our sleevers. Luo Xin said. Of course I know that. However, if we have a strong person with us, we can save a lot of people if we run into danger. Chen Zhao said. The others nodded in agreement. The reason why their caravan brought people along was firstly to earn some fees, and secondly, they had the intention of borrowing strength. If they encountered danger on the road, these people who were traveling together would also help. If there were a few experts together, it would be a great deal, and the safety factor would increase greatly. As they were chatting, someone else came over. Time flew by, and 2 hours passed. The people of the Flame Trade Caravan, as well as the guards, all landed on the back of the four-winged flying tiger. Let's go. Luo Xin shouted. The four-winged flying tiger let out a loud roar and immediately soared into the sky, flying towards the chaotic astral ocean. Lu Ming took a quick glance. There were a total of 64 winged flying tigers, and each of them had about 20 people on them. In total, there were more than 1,000 people. Most of them were from the Flame Chamber of Commerce. 1 to 200 of them, like Lu Ming and the rest, had followed the team to the Golden Sand Island. There was nothing else on the four-winged flying tiger's back except for people. People would not have goods, and warriors were naturally different from ordinary merchant caravans. Mortal caravans usually carried a large amount of goods with them, but the goods of martial artists were all stored in storage rings. The four-winged flying tiger roared as it moved. It had 4 huge wings that were more than 50 meters wide. When it flapped its wings, a strong wind blew, and it was extremely fast. 60 huge four-winged flying tigers flew thousands of meters in the air and formed a certain formation. On the four-winged flying tiger at the front stood a white-robed elder who was looking into the distance. This old man was the guide of the caravan. Not only could he tell the direction, but he could also avoid thunderstorms and storms. He could be seen from far away and had never taken a detour to avoid them. This was something that every caravan would have, and it was also called an feng xiong master. An feng shui master was the most valuable asset of a caravan. They could help a caravan avoid many dangers. The salty sea breeze blew and Lu Ming felt refreshed. This is the real ocean. Lu Ming stood on the back of the four-winged flying tiger and looked into the distance. The blue ocean was boundless, as if it was connected to the sky. The surface of the sea was very calm. It was completely different from the sea that Lu Ming had seen in the heaven realm. After a while, Lu Ming sat cross-legged. The journey to Golden Sand Island would take half a month, and he could use this time to cultivate. His mind sank into his sea of consciousness and he sat cross-legged under the lightning cauldron to comprehend the lightning concept. A few hours later, Lu Ming ended his comprehension of the thunder concept. He began to deduce the exploding star fist in his mind. Time flew by and 3 days passed. Hualala. The sound of waves crashing could be heard from below. At the same time, chirping sounds could be heard. Lu Ming looked down and was slightly shocked. On the surface of the sea below, there were huge black fish. Lu Ming estimated that each of them was no more than 100 meters long. There were more than 100 of them in total. They were rolling in the sea and letting out sharp cries. Here in the deep sea, all kinds of sea demonic beasts gradually appeared. Huala. Suddenly, a large part of the water sank down, revealing rows of sharp teeth. A black fish was caught off guard and was directly bitten in two by the sharp teeth. A huge shark jumped out of the water, its aura monstrous. What a big shark! Lu Ming estimated that the shark was at least 1,000 meters long. It was huge and looked like a small island in the ocean. The shark opened its mouth wide and swallowed the big fish. Then, it rushed to the other big fish. The other big fish naturally scattered and fled in all directions. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.